Oh, okay. Let me see what I
Because they get out at 2:30.
I think it's good today.
I know.
Oh, wow. Clothes on? Watch out, watch out, watch out.
Yeah, it depends on where and what time. Just like me. Yep,
Front row, not back row.
Too busy.
I'm sharing that to you right now.
Don't have all the information.
That was a silly question.
It's too close.
Hey, Sam. The only thing that's not hammered out yet is the 3-year-olds and the autism group, but pre-KK and 1 is hammered out.
Did we submit a session calendar too?
Okay.
We're doing water.
Two different kinds of water. This is regular water. I'm so sorry. And maybe later it
I think I'm gonna reiterate. Yeah.
Okay.
6 o'clock, please rise. We'll start the meeting. Linda, you give us the invocation, please.
Yes, I'll be glad to. If you'll bow your heads while I pray, please. Lord, we thank you for this day, for bringing us here together tonight. We thank you for your love and your protection throughout the day. And Lord, so many bad things in the news. We know that we trust you to watch over us. Lord, keep us safe, keep our children safe. Pray, Lord, that you'd be with us tonight as we look at the information before us, that we would make wise decisions, Lord, that we would have open hearts and open minds to follow the best course for our students and their future, that we would be able to provide what they need, keeping them always in the forefront in our decisions. Pray that you would be with us, help us to have clarity of thought and understanding, and Lord, that you would help us to be agreeable even when we don't agree. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Show me the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. May be seated. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes from last month's regular meeting. If everybody had a chance to read those, I entertain a motion and waive the reading of them.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes without reading.
Got a motion by Linda,
I'll second.
second by Becky. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Recognition.
All right, our first, I think we have some 226 awards tonight.
We do. We have Wild Peach Elementary, Miss McCarthy, and then we have Miss Bolton, at West Columbia.
So it's my pleasure to present to you Sherry Staggers, Columbia High School class of 1984. And she's here with her family as well, Columbia High School graduates, and Ms. Staggers sent 4 boys to Columbia High School. So this is local grown and a good hire for Wild Peach Elementary. And so Ms. Staggers is a paraprofessional in my special ed department. And Ms. Staggers comes to work every day with this smile on. This beautiful smile that tells the children that they are loved and cared for and special to her. And she provides personal care services to these children. And these children need a lot of personal care services. She does it with that smile. And she does it with dignity, and she does it with respect for the children. These kids are mainstream. They're not in a self-contained class, but they need extra care. And the way that she treats these children is like I would want my child to be treated if my child had special needs. And she's dependable. The only day she's been absent the past couple of years was the day of the last board meeting. There was a family emergency. But she's dependable. I can always count on her to do whatever she wants. And so for that reason, I've nominated Ms. Staggers to receive the 226 award for CBISD.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay. Next up, Ms. Bolton, West Columbia Elementary.
Okay, I'm actually going to recognize an entire team of teachers, so I want to bring them up here first before I give my comments. First, we have Jennifer Stark that could not be with us here this evening. Then Heather LaPointe, Amber Riddle, Adrian Copeland, and Jill Raven. You'll have to indulge me, I have a lot to say and I didn't want to forget anything. So, as we approach the end of the 22-23 school year, I felt that I would be remiss if I did not take the opportunity to recognize some key contributing members of our WCE team, our specials team. As many of you know, this year our students are taking the STAR redesign test, which students are required to type in their responses for the first time ever. And as we were preparing for this, we quickly realized that they were not up to par on their keyboarding skills. When we brought this to Mrs. Stark's attention and asked her to help us close this gap, she not only agreed to help us, but she took the initiative to create a Google Classroom-based keyboard curriculum that guided and tracked the students' keyboarding progress from week to week. She also manages our Chromebook tickets and inventory on a daily basis. Ms. LaPointe not only runs the library like a well-oiled machine, but she also takes the initiative to promote any AR incentive program that she and her head librarian, Mrs. Neal, begin. She follows Mrs. Neal's lesson plans to the T, and she works the dismissal line every afternoon, rain or shine, with never one complaint. In fact, she often has to be told on a daily basis that it is time for her to go because she never wants to leave the job undone. Ms. Riddle was asked to step into our specials team as our SEL teacher when another paraprofessional resigned. But in no time at all, she dove into the character education curriculum written by our counselor, Ms. Irwin, and immediately began providing consistent SEL lessons. In addition, at my request, she has also implemented a fine arts-based vocabulary enrichment program called Discussions for Learning with Fidelity. She has already completed the first book of lessons with the students and is now plowing through the second book as well. Since doing this, I've had students stop me in the hallway to tell me what new words they are learning in SEL. In her free time, she also assists the secretaries with supplies and classroom inventories. Mrs. Copeland continues to deliver a great balance of fine arts education by alternating her lessons between art and music, and always leads the charge in serving our students with a positive attitude and a servant's heart. She has organized, planned, and orchestrated a 3rd grade Christmas program, a 4th grade Texas program, a 5th grade veterans program, and is currently preparing for a kindergarten end of the year music program and an end of the year talent show, my favorite. She has a passion for art and STEM as well, and she's always looking for ways to add rigorous and creative lessons into our specials classrooms. And Ms. Rayleigh, she continues to lead this team by example, giving 100% of herself to the students each and every day. She literally never fails to meet whatever need that might arise long before she's ever even asked to help. I cannot tell you how many times I have gone down to the gym to ensure that it has been set up for a specials event, only to discover that she has already set up all the chairs herself without ever being asked. When our schedule has to be adjusted, she will adjust and rework that special schedule instantly, and in her spare time, she also serves as our yearbook sponsor. Mrs. Copeland and Ms. Rayleigh support each other by helping to prepare the students for any and all specials programs. They also set up an art station at our recent Art in the Park event. And during our enrichment time, they have led the specials teams in facilitating our attendance parties each 9 weeks. And they quickly adapted to start delivering the lessons from Positive Pina's program, 2 Words, which teaches character education lessons that also support our pillars of excellence. This phenomenal team of women wear many, many hats at WCE, and I appreciate that they are always willing to first volunteer to do the dirtiest jobs with the biggest of smiles. Their tireless commitment to our students is an example for us all to follow. Could you please? I would love to be. Yeah, open it.
Ms. McCarthy, you and Ms. Staggers could come back up too. We're gonna get a group pic for y'all leave.
1, 2, 3, cheese, cheese. Awesome.
Okay, ladies, if y'all would transition to the front so that Ms. McCarthy and Ms. Staggers can join y'all, so we get Ms. Jeffries gonna take the group picture. And the board's gonna hide.
The board's gonna hide.
Show it.
Okay.
Yes.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, cheese. Perfect.
All right, thank y'all so much.
You can see you around. You can see him over there.
Ms. Riley. You're like blushing. I watched you change.
I can stand up in front of a bunch of children, but I get real nervous in front of adults.
I asked him if we bought a heat lamp over there, WCE, I didn't know.
What?
I asked him if we bought a heat lamp over there, WCE. Thank y'all. Campus communication.
All right. Mr. Wiseout, are we ready? Yes. We're gonna start with Barrow. Is that right? Principal Cohee.
Well, she was very busy today because she had to step in and test one of our students who needed to be removed from a testing environment. So I made the picture, so I'm going to talk today. So the top picture is with the red carpet. One of our teachers decided that they wanted to do something special each Monday of each week that we were STAR testing to make the kids feel good about themselves and to let them know that this is a fun time. You know, if you look good, you feel good, you do good. So on Monday we did red carpet and we were the star of the stars, and all of our students wore their Sunday's best, and as you can see we had some tuxedos and some homecoming prom dress type attire. We were very impressed with how they came to school on Monday. They all looked wonderful and they had a good time. All of the other pictures are from our Star Pepper Rally that we had on Friday. We have done this for the past 2 years now, and it's probably the best day of the entire school year. The drum line came. Carly Miller's up at the top right playing her little drum. We had the cheerleaders and the dancing dolls also came and performed the diggy. They do that for us during the Red Ribbon Parade every year, and they do it for us in our Star Pep Rally, and the kids have started to catch on and learn the dance. In the middle, you see the teachers. Each student got to pick a teacher to play a game with, and they had to get M&Ms from one plate with a straw to the middle plate, and whoever had the most won. On the right-hand side, we did do a pie day contest to see which kid could recite the most numbers in pi, and they got to pie me and Mrs. Cohey in the face. The winner of the entire campus decided to take it upon herself and take the whole entire whipped cream bottle and squirt it all over my face. That's at the very bottom in the middle. And Mrs. Cohey's getting her pie in the face on the right-hand side there. And then the very bottom, our student council members, they did a skit just to remind our students that they know what they need to know and to do their best on test day. And I'm happy to say that everybody, gave 110% today on their STAR test, and it is going to be wonderful. So that is what we have here.
Good deal. Thank you. All right, next up.
Okay, so we're starting off with the UL participants that went to the Wharton Junior College. We had several people advance from here. Some advanced in physics. We had one advanced in physics and one advanced in the math category. Don't have all of their names, but I was very proud of those young people. Next slide, please. We have here our girls golf team. They're right now beating the brakes off of people. I was trying to get the update from Jake because I heard Carly shot 37. Yeah, on the front nine. See, I don't really know golf, but I'm talking like I do. So Carly shot 37 on the front nine, and we don't know what happened on the back nine. So waiting on that information. I'm very proud of these young ladies. This is the victory flag in that district championship. Next slide, please. We have our girls track, who are also advancing on through regionals and areas. They have been competing and doing very well. Got the next slide, please. This was a great baseball game. Now, baseball is not my forte, but these guys beat the brakes off of this school. I hadn't seen baseball hitting like that. It was pretty good. I was like, wow, we were doing a great job. Because I remember when they started off, they were very young. They were getting beat a lot. And now they are beating people a lot. So it was a great game. Next slide, please. We had two amazing teachers named Teachers of the Year at Columbia High School. Miss Katie Trevino is our new Teacher of the Year, and our math teacher, Miss Ann Thomas, is the Columbia High School Teacher of the Year. Tonight, next slide please, is parent night for softball. The overall record for the girls right now are 16-8, and they're 8-2 in district, and they're celebrating their seniors and parents tonight. Next slide please. This was something that I love to see, teachers coming outside of the classroom and using the whole building. This was a gallery walk for our developmental class. They had their first health disorders gallery walk. Almost reminds you of a science fair. These kids did research on certain elements that were health related, and then students came out of the classroom and they taught other students about those elements. I thought it was a really great activity. Next slide, please. We have our choir who is singing like a bug. These young people are winning number ones on stage, number one in sight reading, number one in tenors and bass, sweepstakes and trophies. They probably don't get enough recognition, but just look at all of those beautiful singers that are lined up, dressed well, they travel well. It was an amazing thing. Glad for those people. Next slide, please. And so our fishing team still pulling them out the water left and right. We got a state qualifier with the Langdon and Pinero They may be going to state, right, Ms. Coach? Ms. Coach, are you okay? All right. So they'll fish at the Sam Rayburn Lake in May. That's all I have.
Good job. Mr. Jeffrey, your vocabulary is showing your age, man.
I dropped a mug.
I understood it, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Hey, thanks for the translation.
West Brazos Junior High, Mr. Kenny.
So I wanted to share some of the academics that are going on in the LGI room in 6th grade. So the large group instruction is being utilized. Ms. Mullins and Coach Frederick took both of their classes together in there to do an Easter egg hunt. So kind of like a escape room where they had to do a review on theoretical and experimental probabilities. So some of the stations they actually had to perform the task, so they're flipping a coin, drawing from a bag, and writing down the experimental probability and get the clues to figure out which color egg to go to next, to figure out which table to go to next. And so they did a really big large group instruction review with that in the LGI, so I wanted to show off Easter egg hunts. Next, we have National Junior Honor Society. So on Thursday, last Thursday, April 13th, they inducted 43 new students, 33 6th graders and 10 7th graders into the National Junior Honor Society. And that is quite an honor. In order to meet that, you have to carry a grade average of 94 or higher, as well as be in good standing with discipline and attendance. So that was a very fun night. On the far right-hand side, you'll see me shaking hands with my son, so I'm very proud that he was able to accomplish that as well. So I wanted to show him off a little bit. If you go back a slide, we'll show off Reese in there. I didn't know if you noticed Reese Jeffrey was in there. So he was doing very well, leading his group in the probabilities. Wow, activity, yeah.
Come a long way, Mr. Kenny.
Yeah, right. And then last week, the 12th, 13th, and 14th, our band went to contest, and they scored all ones. All 3 bands scored all ones, and they received sweepstakes awards. And so the cadet band, this is their 3rd consecutive year that they've got sweepstakes, which is all ones across the board. Same with concert, and it's the 4th consecutive year that honors has received that. So to let you know, some upcoming performances, our beginner band, which is majority 6th graders, will be April 25th at our gymnasium. And then all 3 of the cadet concert and honors band will be performing May 16th in the gymnasium as well. So if you get a chance, come out and listen to some wonderful music.
Very nice. Thank you, sir. Principal Bolton.
Yes, if I had known it was family photo share night, I would have probably slipped in a photo of my granddaughter instead. I wasn't with you guys last month because I had a granddaughter born that day. Maybe next month I'll slip in a picture of her. But I'm going to catch you up on some of the events that have occurred since then. We've had lots of family involvement going on at WC in the evening. So first I wanted to share our CIS sponsored a family bingo night, which who knew that would be such a hit. Everybody loved the bingo. So Elaine Walters, our CIS sponsor, said she's probably going to make that 2 times a year annual event that we do, because it really drew in some of the families and a lot of the families that we want to reach, that we want to come to school. We also, that same night, had ST Math come. They brought the Penguin GG with them. They provided pizza for everyone. And they also brought board games, different math games that we were able to raffle off and give to students to take home with their families as well. And the next slide, we also had art in the park one evening that coincided with our book fair at the same time, with the stations set up all around the track outside, and the kids got to do a variety of art projects with their families. Everyone really loved it. The weather was beautiful. It was a great spring evening and time to really explore different mediums of art. And then we also had our STEAM night, where our teachers put up engineering, math, science games, all at the same time. And we had them making rockets, airplanes, measuring how far their airplane flew, what could they do to make it go further, how high could they build the tower, what made it stronger, etc. And then on the next slide, I wanted to highlight our 4th grade team that is doing a camp, Star Camp Prep. Last week they did, every teacher was a different campsite, and they traveled from class to class reviewing all of their major teaks for reading in preparation for this week's STAR test. In the middle you can see Miss Lip there. She's doing some very interactive activities with the kids where they have passages and they have to answer the questions, but they had to put their evidence in each square, and then they would travel around the room and check their evidence against the other students' evidence. We also had kindergarten do a egg hunt with sight words. So there were sight words on the eggs, and if they could read it, they could pick it up and put it in their basket. So that was a huge hit as well. And finally, the last thing is some of the recognitions that we've been doing at school. The first picture is kindergarten students who have completed their entire ST math track for the whole year. We're so excited about that. I think that's the most that we've ever had that have completed the whole pathway. And we are continuing to recognize our bell ringers this third 9 weeks of students who've met their grade level standards, as well as our star hoppers, students who are working through the levels from last year to this year as well. So we're very proud of all their achievements.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, Wild Peach Elementary.
All right, so
McCarthy.
we had a fabulous community involvement event on Friday. Since we reorganized Wild Peach into an early childhood school, we have not had a career day because 2019-20, the first year, was COVID. We shut down and haven't had one since. So we were talking in leadership earlier this year about what to do for a career fair for 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds. And Lake Jackson put on an event called Touch a Truck. And I'm like, what if we did something like that? So Ms. Hogan, our family liaison, and Dottie Rutherford, our CIS person, they called local businesses and government agencies to see if they would be willing to send a work vehicle out to our site for the kids to touch and watch and look at. And so we had 12 businesses or government entities send vehicles. Here we have BTEL, who sent their bucket truck, and I'm telling you, they were absolutely fascinated by that bucket. I parked it near a light pole so they would have something to go and speak. And this one little girl, she's in my special needs class. I've never seen her sit still, and I've never seen her visually engage with anything. She was mesmerized by that truck. It was just like, oh wow, we need to have this truck more often. The fire department came out. If you'll show me some more slides. We had. Okay, back up one. Sunbelt Rentals came out and brought us some construction equipment, and they got to climb in it and play with it and try to find the horn, and nobody was successful. County Barn brought the road grader, and the kids thought it was cool that they could fit between the tires. One of our families, they own a demolition business, and they brought their excavation machinery. Some of the kids dressed for career day, and this little guy, his dad does work construction, and he brought his hard hat and safety vest. We'll go to the next one. The Coast Guard brought the rescue boat. The kids absolutely had a blast performing water rescue. This little guy here, this is Luke Ross, and his mom is Kylie Ross. She's one of our constables, and she picks Luke up in the cruiser every day, but Luke had never gotten to sit in the front seat. He always gets to sit in the But anyway, all the kids, the constables, 2 of them came, they got to arrest a bad guy, stop in the name of the law, put your hands up. They got to talk on the microphone and flash the lights. They got to get in the back and experience the back. The EMS department came out. This is another one of our little special needs children. She never interacts with anything. And this day, we had her engaged. She was smiling, touching, interacting with people. That never happens. So this was just a fantastic day of hands-on activities. 12 different entities came out and let our children see what they do. And so it was a fabulous hands-on learning experience, career experience for 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds.
Neat day. Thank you. Principal, you guys and ladies do an amazing job. I agree. Yeah, fabulous. Gets better every month.
All right, do we have any citizens we heard that signed up?
Chief?
No, nobody signed up.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. So we'll go on to reports.
Yeah.
We're gonna move around, then we're gonna do number 5 first, the financial investment report.
Okay, first piece of this, Mr. Darlow, are you ready? You need some prep time? Okay.
No, sir. Only fair for my financial guys, I'll talk fast. So. Hey, you're probably more interested in what they have to say than what I have to say. But appreciate the opportunity to visit with y'all and give you a quick update since I was here last October. We've had lots of fun activities collecting delinquent taxes. You know, people don't believe that that's awful, but it really is. But, you know, we do sales, we talk to people, convince people it's in their best interest to pay their taxes. We go knock on doors of businesses and remind them that they would rather pay me now than pay me when I have to bring the sheriff by with a warrant to seize their business. It's a great conversation starter. Gets people to pay. And in fact, in April, we started on our early turnover collection of the 2022 taxes. And as you know, for this report, everything is still 21 in prior year. Even though we started with the personal property in April, we won't really start the balance of the 22s until July. And just an FYI for everybody, in May, the tax office will mail out notices to people that haven't paid their 2022 real property and mineral accounts, that if you don't pay it by July 1 of 23, that the additional collection penalty will be imposed at that time. And then we'll start our next collection season. And I don't know if it's a good or bad thing to say that it'll be my 40 plus some odd year of collecting delinquent taxes. So I've seen a thing or two.
Wow.
And there's virtually nothing I haven't heard, although every once in a while I hear a story I've never heard. So let me run through a couple things for you really quick and answer any questions, of course, that y'all may have. So how much money is owed? When we prepared this for you last month, we had about $784,000 of base tax that was owed for all years. I want to point out a couple of things that impact our ability to collect and things that we're working on. First and foremost is you'll see the deferrals, which is now almost 30% of the total roll. As you know, and I repeat this each time I give a report, if you're over 65 and it's your homestead, you have the right to defer the payment of your taxes. You can still voluntarily pay it if you want, but you don't have to. And when that is in that category, we don't send letters, we don't file lawsuits, we take no action except to periodically monitor and make sure that everybody that is receiving the deferral is entitled to it. And if somebody's passed away, we let the appraisal district know, and they do their thing, and then ultimately it comes to us to collect. The other I'll point out for you is our litigation. We have several cases that we just took judgment on back in March. There'll be sales that we'll probably do later in the summer if those people don't agree to pay. And then in our action pending, the largest account that we have owes the district about $6,000. It's only 2 tax years. It's 35 acres, and you'd think, oh, this has got to be a great piece of property. Well, it's one of our title from you-know-where problems and trying to figure out what's really going on it. So we're working on that, working with the appraisal district to see if we can get that account figured out and either get it paid or file a lawsuit. And then lastly, the one thing you do not see on this report this time, and it's been a while really since we've had a significant amount of it, are bankruptcy cases. And again, I like to mention that as a sign that within the community, the economy is doing well enough that people aren't just filing bankruptcies. Now, I don't know how the rest of this year will go. We may see a little bit of an uptick in that, but for purposes of the report tonight, you have no delinquent taxes that are involved in an active bankruptcy case. So I think that's a good thing. Let me skip the second, I'll go to the third slide, which breaks down the money that's owed by year. And as you would expect, the largest single year we have is still is 2021, representing 27% of the money. And you can see each year prior to that, the dollar amount and the amount it represents to the total. You know, as I tell you all each time that, you know, the sooner you collect it, the better. You don't do anybody any favors by waiting. So we really try to work hard to get people to pay. And again, as you've heard me say time and time again, there's never a situation where somebody doesn't have the opportunity to pay multiple times along the way. From the first letter to the lawsuit to the tax sale, all in that. Anybody that reaches out and wants to do something, there's very few times that we say, no, you can't do that. It's usually, well, that's great to start, but how about this? Or have you thought about that, to try to get people to try to get their taxes up? And then finally, let me just skip to the very last chart. This is all that, I give you these graphs each time, but I'll just take you to the last one, which is the 21 year that we started last July. There it is. Perfect. So last July, we started with $551,000. For the last couple of years, we've been right around that $500,000 range that gets turned over to us. That's after y'all are collecting 97+% roughly of your current year. Right now through March, you've already collected 91+% of your 2022 taxes. So when July comes, there's just a couple percentages points that are unpaid that will work. It'll be somewhere in that rough dollar amount for next cycle. And you can see 9 months into the collection cycle, we've collected over 61% of the 551 that was owed to the district. So I feel good that we're on track for a good collection, a good wrap up to this collection season. And with that all having been said, I will be happy to entertain any questions that the board may have.
Just curious, do you see repeated customers over and over? Or
I do.
Do you?
It's great.
Just historical, the way they do things?
It's amazing. You know, you would think that's just how some people do their business.
No, I understand.
They just build it in to go to Lincoln. So we send them holiday cards and thank you notes. No, but we do. You would be surprised.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
You think if they went through it once or twice, they would say, hey, let's stop this. But
Career up. Can't help it. But overall, I think things are going well. We'll see what you end up with at the end of June. And when the weather cools off again, we'll be back to give you an update. And along the way, when situations arise, I reach out to Steve or Julie and give them a heads up if something odd is in the making, so that everybody's aware of what's going on. As always, we appreciate the opportunity to work with the district. We appreciate the relationship we've had these many years.
back when me and Lynn and Becky first got on the board, at that point in time, it was pretty much predominantly Columbia Lakes or Bar X. Would the economy be better? Do you see concentrations, or more kind of
Spread out
wide more
It's
now?
spread out more, and we're continuing to sell Bar X property. You know how it's, over the years, we've talked how it's ebbed and flowed in terms of the values, and what we've been able to get if it has to go to tax sale. And we're at another high point right now where we're selling, it's still holding strong.
Good, okay.
And there's very few delinquent accounts in Columbia Lakes.
Good.
I would say it's a handful right now.
Good. Y'all do a great job. We appreciate everything y'all do, Mike.
Thank you all
Keep
very
up the
much.
good work.
We appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Be safe.
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
All right, we have a couple more things. We have investment.
I do. You should have a copy of the investment report. Right now, Texas class, that's where we have the majority of the money for INS and we're earning currently about a little over 5%. As of last quarter, it was at 4.86. And so we have got $291,000 in investment income for all of our accounts in total for the last quarter.
What's that? Any questions? I ain't found it yet. I'm still looking. Oh, it's attached. Oh, it's attached in your program.
I was early. I got it in the book.
Yeah, all right. Now, they get so much paper when you say you have it, they think it's in their folder, so they're all looking through their
Sorry.
So,
Same. Look at those rates are a lot better than the last report we looked at.
Yes. They are. And right now, Texas classes said they're at 5.05. So they're going up just a little bit more.
good deal. Okay. All right, I do have some financial information for you in your folder. There's a staple piece of paper. This is what it looks like. It has 020 020907 Columbia, Missouri, on the top. So what this is, we've been talking about what's going to happen in the state with education funding. And so yesterday, we received our first look at it. So if you've been paying attention, I sent you some information on what's known as House Bill 100. Seems like it's going to be the education rider that makes it through the state, maybe. And so I know it's already gone to committee, and they're continuing to work on it. And so we finally had the first run that was shared. And so what you see, if you look at that 020, that's just our county district number, Columbia, Missouri, State. The 2686 is the average daily attendance that these numbers are kind of running on, okay? You drop down, you see the first line that starts with the 0.859. That's kind of like the state identified M&O tax rate. None of this is exact science. These are just runs that the state gives us, right? So if you look at our M&O rate, that's not really it. But the next piece is that 17,184,995. That's this year. That's kind of that number the state expects us to raise from local taxes money, right? So that's identified, right? And that's something that people don't understand, is that when we receive this information to the state, these levels are given right from the beginning. That next piece, that 9,547,706, that is the state makeup that gets us to that number of 26,733,701, which is the state identified as total funding for this year. Okay. That number's close, but we do know that ADA, we're running a little bit short of that, so we're factoring.
Our special ed is earning a little more.
Right. So long story short, budget-wise, we're sitting good as compared to what we talked about, even with some of the extra expenditures we had this year. We're sitting really, really good going into the end of the year. The next piece is the legislative run that if House Bill 100, as it is right now, was to come in effect, and you can kind of see it shows you M&O rate, it shows you a number that would be raised locally, a number that was with a state, and then you can see that 28,749,156, which is basically an increase of $2 million in education funding in Columbia, Missouri, State. And then you can see that number of 751, that's the increase in funding per child that's identified. A lot of things go into this. Right, small and mid-size adjustment, different scenarios as far as weighted funding for kids, but not everybody's going to receive that. But it's a funding mechanism that identified early is good for CBISD. So, long story short, you put that with what we've been talking about. We've been very concerned about that fiscal cliff with ESSER. What do we do? How do we replace? The idea is that it's not going to be as bad, right? If this holds true, it's not going to be as bad. We're actually sitting in it good. Doesn't mean we can just go add, but it means the things that we've already been talking about, things we're already doing, are going to get us to where we need to be. Okay. Keep in mind, too, that also piece of this, there's a raise in what's called the basic allotment. Keep in mind that the last time this happened, that 30% of the basic allotment, the overage or the addition has to be tied to staff salaries, right? So that goes to teachers' raises. Part of the legislation currently is suggesting that number be raised to 50%. So we'll be keeping track of what that is. But with this number, a certain amount for raises is kind of what we think we need to get. So as we're looking what we need to make up for ESSER and what we need to kind of see raises, we're factoring if we want to give a raise, we want to do that. So we still think we're sitting in a pretty positive area. That next line item below is the 24-25 year would be the second year of the biennium. And so when you run through those numbers, you see the additional amount of 2,259,092. That's not an additional $2 million. It's technically an additional $250,000 in the second year, right? And so keep in mind, so when you look at that first line's like 2022, and then the bottom line's 24-25, if that makes sense to you. So I just don't want you to think we're getting an additional. And it's just kind of showing you, it's the same first lines are the starting point, the second lines are where you want that. Okay.
So we're looking about $2.3 million over a 2-year biennium.
Correct.
Okay.
No. The increase would be 2,259. You'd receive.
That's what I mean. That'd be the total. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 2,016,000 the first year in the balance.
Yeah, again, can't say that this is the first legislative run that's been shared on this, okay? I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up there. The next 2 pages, it's been a while since we talked 313. 313s are actually gone away now, but we do have some projects that are approved. And so this is a printout that I gave you a few months back that kind of shows that in this next budget year that you would have 3 projects that would start paying. So that kind of to the far right, you can kind of see what that number is. And if you go all the way down over the period of 10, 11 years, you can see what the payouts would be. The second page is concerning year 1. So if you look at the 23-24 year I have, the number that I have identified to pay in, the second one is from Kathy Messias with local Casey. Remember that when these things are done, we approve them, and then 3 or 4 years later, they become active and they go on the rolls. But remember, they're appraised on the present value. And so remember, appraisals, land value is gone, things have gone up in 4 years. So it's going to be an additional. So you can see that she's identified, if you look at that bottom line, total 23 estimate due by January 2024, you look over to the column, you can see that 1.6 number is bigger than the 1.5 number I had. I just want you to see that what we had estimated when we approved the projects at 1.5 is now going to be a little over 1.6 based on the growth, right? Now that's assuming that things hold steady because, again, it'll be done in the tax year next year as their price.
Do we have any idea how the construction portion is coming along? I mean, are that 50% done, or they started, or?
My understanding is that they're all active now, meaning they've completed construction.
Okay.
And so what happens is you get paid Dwayne, you might tell me if I'm wrong, but I think they have to be on the tax roll for a full year, right? So if they just become active in November, they don't have to pay until they're on the calendar. They're on for a calendar year. I think that's correct, right? Yeah.
So they may not be on the calendar year until next year.
Correct.
24.
Right.
Okay. They've been completed through this. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So financial information for you. Long story short, that identified amount that we see coming in next year is not identified in the state funding, right? That's just like the other districts that receive 313 payments as well. Okay. Any questions, concerns?
So do you think in 23 they will all be in? Oh no, you think they all completed last year? What you're saying?
What during this?
If you're saying they have to be on there for a complete year.
Because they run December to January, right?
Yeah, it's whatever it is, January 1st.
Right. So meaning they're all going to be active as of December of 2023. So we roll into the January year, their payments due in January 2024.
Okay. So they're basically all complete now then?
That's my understanding, according to Kathy. That I don't get notified.
No, I understand. She tracks all their engineering and everything else.
Correct.
Okay. I was thinking they were completing right now, so they had to be on here this year, and then we wouldn't get anything until the following year.
Gotcha.
Okay. We good? Okay.
Good. Good news. Good news. Okay.
So when you say from reading what you've read, if they make you use 50% of what they give you for raises, does that mean you use 25% one year and 25% the next year, or
Each year.
So out of that 2,259,000, we're about to use $1.1 million towards raises?
That's not all, that's total money, right? So when you look at it, they do a legislative run. It may have special ed funding increase in it. An identified amount of that's going to be a raise in the basic allotment. I don't know what that is from these numbers, right?
Okay.
So no, it's not going to be 50% of that total amount. In there's going to be a basic allotment amount that's going to identify 50% of whatever that is.
What the raise
But it's
has to
going to
be.
be less than that total amount, yes.
Okay. I just was curious what we have for actually bringing back extra things that we did versus how much is going towards raises. Cool. Okay.
So last last thing that we have as part of this is the board financial committee did meet. And so I didn't know, Julie, if you want to give an update, or Jonathan, or Jack, or Linda. Jack's not here, but if y'all wanted to give the rest of the board just an update.
We met, Julie did a wonderful job going over the basics of our financial situation. She has come a long ways in a short period of time to better understand our funding mechanisms, which is not an easy thing to do. I think all of us were very impressed with the Excel spreadsheet she set up for salaries and the way to track that and monitor that and see that. And like I say, from the first meeting, I thought she did a wonderful job to give us the basics on that. So kudos to her. Good job. And her staff, because I'm sure they helped out too. Yeah. Trying to leave anybody out.
Not here, yes.
Okay.
Gave me a new appreciation for what Samantha and Jennifer and Julie do. Because just looking at the chart made my head hurt. And they put it all together with,
No, that's
clarity and meaning.
I appreciate you saying that, because what most people don't understand is that's a daily job, right?
Yes.
You do it daily, so when you ask how we're managing stuff, if you do it daily, those ladies do it daily, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing at Hill.
Appreciate that. Okay, Bond?
Bond 22 report.
Okay, I'm gonna get to Westerman's in just a second, but I want to introduce something if you don't mind. So I have a handout for you. Looks like that's a PBK on the front. So we did have our last meeting with PBK and Drumala this morning. So the first page is the schedule. You can kind of see there's 3 different schedules here, right? One's the early design phase. And you can see right there, it says construction document phase made October 23, which is basically showing you that by October 23 is when we want to get things kicked off. But based on conversations, we do have more or less 2 what we call early packages of things that needed to get started early that will help us get on track. Number 1 is HVAC. You know, with the chillers, the sooner we can get that going, the better off we're going to be, right? The next early package is to start with some demo and earthwork, getting things rolling so that when they actually start knocking buildings down, it's put us ahead of the game a little bit. So, meaning they're going to want to start those 2 things before October, right? And so, again, it's not a problem. The issue is that at some given point, you're going to have your guaranteed maximum price, right? And so what's probably going to happen is we're probably going to be going out for HVAC and out for the early earthwork and early demo before we actually have a GMP. But those 2 segments will have a cost. And so what would happen is these 2 things would actually come to the board for board action and approval. And in effect, you don't have a GMP for the project, but you have a cost for that, if that makes sense. Okay.
A cost for the project?
Cost for this piece of the project, just the things we're talking about.
Earlier 2.
Correct. Right. This is not how it's been done, but this is the suggested process of going through it, because if we wait and do it all as one like we have in the past, you're going to run the risk of the project being extended based off the project schedule, right? We want to do the best we can to keep it up, right? The second page is kind of just a cost run of looking at, as we go through this, about, one of the things we'll talk about in just a second is the early cost projection for the project. This is kind of a printout of when documents we got the bid, the percentage completion. That kind of helps you know, the closer we get to that, we're going to be able to whittle down what that actual guaranteed maximum price is. Okay. The next 8 pages, the third page, if you look at the top, it's the schematic design documents. So we're getting close to the end of the schematic design process. And so this is our first look at what projected cost of our project. If you can see to the right, the $65,715,396 is the estimated cost of that project today. Long story short, the bond's for $79 million, but there are a lot of other things like furniture and management fees and testing and all of those kind of things. This is just the building piece of it, right? So the number that we had listed was right above 65.8. You can see that the early number is right at 65.7. So we're in line, we're close. Things are not off kilter. That's great news.
And you have $7 million with the contingency.
Right. Now, keep in mind, that's a good math.
$7 million worth of contingency in the
Right.
numbers.
And
I
so-
mean, it's only like an eat away,
Yeah. Right.
just as part of the process. But
Yeah, and so when you're looking at it, you're looking at, this is like when we established the GMP last time, a sixth grade building, we have contingencies for this extra money in case there's problems. Those things are built in, and that's a good point, Matt. It's just not what the building costs. This is a plan, right? It's a plan to go at it. So that's exactly right. We're sitting in a good spot right now. When just as you're looking through it, it has things like temporary fencing, security for safety of kids, pathways, student safety, get fencing, get kids from one side of the campus to the other. All those things are built in as they go through the phases, right? So it's a very detailed cost estimate. We talked about tennis courts. Given the fact that we haven't, Justin, I'll talk in this maintenance report, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but this has tennis court, in case we can't get them done early, this has tennis court costs built in, it's an all-inclusive thing, right? So anything we would take out of that would just mean that more money's there, right? The way the contract works, if there's building costs there, and as we go through the process, that cost is not used, that money returns to us. The contractor doesn't keep it.
So these appliances that we're getting for life skill, are those maybe commercial or heavy duty?
Yeah.
Commercial?
If they're talking about washing machines and,
Okay.
I mean, all of those things will be picked out. I want to say that some of the department was in on the design meetings and they sit with architects and Dromala and they
Okay.
talk about what they want.
So they're a little bit better than what we're gonna get at Lowe's?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
wanna make sure. Okay. Which I figured, it's like we're not going to Lowe's and paying, right?
Right. No.
I'm like, oh my God.
No.
Life skill prices are about normal prices for consumer
For consumption.
products.
For a record residential grade.
Yeah, that's not out of line, those prices. I don't know about the athletic ones, I don't like commercial ones.
Now, what did you say? Tell me again what you just said.
On the life skills, those prices, if you went to Lowe's, that's about what you would pay.
For a higher end at Lowe's, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, refrigerators are around $3,000 now. I mean, you can get the old top freezer or whatever, but if you get something, you know, that's
Right.
decent, those aren't out of norm.
Like that floral equipment, is that one walk-in cooler?
I don't have all the numbers.
No, I'm just
You know,
like-
I didn't.
So right now, you don't know if they're adding plumbing in that or electrical.
Okay, well, that,
I mean, it's-
yeah.
Yeah, this is.
The next pricing or something.
Again, this is, yeah.
And they're probably going on a little bit higher and then gonna come down what they actually, I'm
Hopefully.
assuming.
They're basing off square foot prices too, of what they're seeing on the projects that they're buying out right now. So
Okay.
they're basing off of, they're saying, okay, in a gym, we think it's gonna be this for these 10
Okay.
things. So I think once we get the next, a little more accuracy in the drawings, we'll see more accurate pricing.
Okay.
We got a person to track it.
That's right.
The good thing is at least the first estimate came in where we were looking just a hair below it, which is a good thing.
Right. So, you know, one of the things that's helping is have construction costs gone up? Yes. So the planning piece of this, the first program you saw had building 144,000 square feet. So as we've gone through this program and identified classrooms, areas, things, we're actually less than the 144. So that's one of the things that's helping. We haven't given up anything, right? But after the final design of what we want, our square footage is less, is what's helping us, right? But we're still getting, and I want to say, with the last modification to the design, we've actually added 2 more additional classrooms in it. So, I mean, we're in really good shape as far as space for the future.
Without having a calculator, do we have a kind of rough estimate what they think phase 1 and phase 2 is?
No. I don't have that. Again, today was the first day to have that.
Okay, I didn't know if they wrote it down.
No.
It shows on here, you know,
So
tear down.
what Drag Mall is going to do is give us what's called a cost curve, right? So you know when you start the project, the upfront cost is going to be, right? Because we've already started spending some money, some designs and contractor fees and those kind of things. But if you're looking at these, you know, if you sell the bonds in 2 series, which the Westermans will talk about in a minute, the first cell needs to be bigger than the second cell. All right. So any questions, concerns? Just thought you'd see that. It's good news. It's everything we've asked for. We haven't given up anything. We're actually increased and have gotten some extras than what we've started with. You know, some of our teachers have actually sat with the architects and talked about it. So one of the things, and just being honest with you, sometimes it's hard when we have people that are used to using not a whole lot and getting it done, and they sit in front of the architect and like, do you want this? Do you want that? You want this? Sometimes that's a hard discussion to manage, right? Because you just don't know. And so we've kind of worked through that, and I think as it is right now, it's going to be wonderful. Wonderful.
That bring in the Westerns now?
That brings in the Westerns. So, Cody's got it up. Dwayne, you gonna handle this? Nick gonna take some of it, or how we gonna do this?
Yes, I'm in here, but I think next time it's him.
Okay. All right.
Well, thank you. That was a good lead in to talking about the district's debt and the bond project going forward. So if we can go ahead to the next. We'll do a quick review on what you have outstanding. You've got 4 issues that are currently outstanding. They are callable. There's a small bit of the 2015 issue that'll get paid off in 2025. It is callable, that last maturity is callable in 24. Then we have a refunding bond issue from 2019, the new money bond issue from 2020, and then a refunding bond issue in 2021. And you see those amounts, and they're callable in 2027, 2028, and 2030. And we're going to look at the 2019 in a little bit more detail in a minute on potential defeasance, or on the defeasance. The graph at the bottom just shows how much is callable over the next several years out to 2030. So if we go ahead. Here's a quick just look at your tax rate history from 2012 through 2022. And you can see that as your values have been going up, or trending up for the most part, a few years level or declining, your tax rate in the graph is just showing the INS portion of the tax rate. But if you look on the table, you'll see your combined total tax rate has also been decreasing over that time period as well. So that tax rate has continued to come down up to this point. And over the last several years, we've managed the INS side of it at 20 cents, trying to pay off some debt early to help make capacity and room for future debt that we're coming up on. So go ahead. A quick look at what the debt service requirements are. This is principal and interest payments on each of the different series of bonds, and with the total combined annual debt payment off on the right-hand side. Go ahead. Same schedule, just condensed all the issues into one, where we have our principal and interest payments that Julie will use looking at going forward with the INS debt service. So now, back in August, you as a board approved a resolution for redemption or defeasance of bonds to call and pay them off early. And in that resolution, we said we look at a minimum of $400,000. And the issue that we're looking at that would give us the most bang for the buck, if you will, was this 2019 issue. And we're looking, because it has a 4% coupon interest rate on that issue. It's not callable till 27, but we can put the funds in an escrow, which will earn interest until then. And once you put it in that escrow, it actually, the legal word is defeased. It's no longer a debt of the district. All the funds are there to make the payment on that amount. So, and we still need to work through this with Julie and Mr. Galloway, but we looked at defeasing $500,000 from the last maturity, and we can adjust that. We can't go below $400,000, but we can go any amount above that. The total cost, because there's some interest you have to pay to get into the escrow to make sure everything fits, and right now our estimate is that total would be $559,000 to put in. We put into an escrow, and the advantage again of doing this, we'll get some debt paid off early, and the net interest savings of over $60,000. So if we go to the next page, and if I get rolling too fast, slow me down. The next page just kind of shows you how, if we pay that off, this far right-hand column shows the savings in debt service. We're going to pay out some money this year, but we get $10,000 in interest cost savings in the August payment in 23, then $20,000 a year till 2029, when we've now created $510,000 in savings from the debt service in that particular year later on. So there's $620,000 in savings, but we're going to have to put in estimated $559 now. That's where we get the net savings of $60,000. This, just to remind you of some of the actions you've taken in the past through different refundings. And in those in the past, we were able to move up. When we did the 2021 refunding in particular, we sped up the payment of principal to help pay it off quicker when we refunded it, and that was part of the managing that tax rate at 20 cents. So anyway, these are savings from each of the different refundings the district has done over the years. Plus, if we plug in this estimated $60,000 in net savings, so you've created almost $11 million in interest cost savings through the actions that you've taken over that time. I'll stop.
Yeah, start over, because you've lost me altogether.
All right.
So let's start. You're talking about, if I go back here, the series 2019 is the one we're looking at.
You'll go back.
Is that right?
Yes.
$7.932 million worth?
Yes. Okay, go back to that a second. Go here. Nope, that was it. Next, earlier one before this, right here. So looking at this issue here, 50127, and there's $3 million callable. It was originally, I think, 6.9 million in size when it was issued. If you go to the, and now go to the next page, and the next one. This is what you were seeing, 2019, 7,000,009 is the principal and interest over the life of that issue.
Principal and interest?
Yes.
Through there, okay. So, but we're only looking at $3.3 million of it that you're looking to refinance?
Well, what's callable is from these last 3 years, or actually the last 3 years are callable, and so that's the portion that we're looking at right now.
So we're looking at the 2, the 1.6, and 1.6.
Yes, and so we're talking about taking 500,000 out of this maturity in 2029 and paying it off early. Principal amount, yeah. 500,000 in principal out of that maturity.
So we can take that money, where we're getting the money from?
So with the taxable values that you had for the 2022, 2023 year,
Okay.
and you wanted to keep the tax rate stable because you knew you had future, the bond election coming up.
Right.
So at 20 cents, it generated enough money that you have that 500,000 to
We
go
have
ahead.
extra in there?
Yes.
Okay. We're doing that, so we're using the excess funds in there to make a payment.
Right. And
you can make that payment on a bond that's that far out?
We can.
Now?
You can.
You're saying?
Yes. And by doing that resolution in August, when you're going through the budget, you created that liability, if you will, so you could keep the tax rate at 20 cents. That was the whole intent.
Okay. So it's not from operating money, it's from what we do with holding.
It's from the debt service side, and it's so your INS rate wouldn't have dipped down and then have to come jumping way back up.
Okay. I'm with you now.
Okay.
So if we made that payment, then we go over to that further page, you're saying it's gonna save us the 620 over that, from now to 29, because we're running to now.
Correct.
Because that's reducing the principal.
Yes. And then taking out that interest payments between now and then. Yes. And I'll show you on another page, I'll show you where it shows up.
What did we used to call that excess money that's in there? We didn't call it, if you're calling it, we used to call it something else, I thought. Arbitrage money or something?
That's when you earn more interest on your, interest and sinking on your bond proceeds than you're paying. And we're gonna be talking about that with your new bond issue.
Okay. So this, the paying off of that money, we've already done the approval of that, or do we have to do something else to?
You don't have to do it. We're gonna work
You're gonna
with
work
Julie and get it taken care of here in the next 30, 45 days.
Okay.
So you approved it in August.
Okay.
So now we're on looking at your new bond issue.
Okay.
And over here on this side is your outstanding requirements. And if you look before on the earlier pages in 2028, the total principal and interest was 2,000,006. In 2009, it was also 2,000,006. Now, this assumes we've done this defeasance. Now that drops to 2.1 million because that's gone. And these payments are all of $20,000 less going in there. And what that allows us to do then is to put and pay off some of the new issue earlier in 29 rather than having to drop it out longer. And in actuality, it saves 60,000, the net 60,000 when we did it here. But when we looked at this issue, if we didn't do that, and we looked at the new issue with being able to plug in that capacity, extra capacity up front, it saved almost $1 million over paying it. So it's a carry-on benefit going forward. That was a little aside. But anyway, so now we have the 79 million, and I would like to get that on the 313s, those values, and see those pages. I know you'd sent them to us before. We'll look at structuring this more closely as we get the new values and everything else. But our first attempt at this, and we can change it, is to have 40 million in proceeds in the first bond sale this year, and then the 39 million, the remainder of it, say a year from now. We can adjust that if they have a more detailed cash draw
He
schedule.
called it a cost curve, and so I'll be getting that within the week. It's gonna kind of show for the 2 years. And it sounds, given that we're saying the second sale would be 2 years from, well, a
It
year.
could be
It could
12 to
different.
18 months
It's probably
or
gonna
whatever.
work out. I see it as being a fluid situation.
Right.
Okay.
The good news is it's flexible. We can,
Right.
if it needs to be quicker, we can do it quicker. If it
Right.
can be delayed, we'll delay it. But we'll look at those two amounts, and this is scheduled relatively similar to what we showed going into the bond election. And this new amount will cause an increase in the INS tax rate. Now, we were using a 3% projection, and with the 313s coming on board and other values, that's going to be more than 3% by all accounts that we know right now. So that'll be help us out as we get that structured.
Do you know historically what the taxable value has increased year to year?
We do have that. I don't have it with me.
I want to say the last time I think it's averaged like 13%.
Well, you know what? Go back to that slide. We had that slide about the third page with the graph on it. There you go. So here's the assessed valuation for 2012. I don't have the percentages, but you can see.
To be honest, I think it works out to almost 15%, even though you have dips right over the historical 20-year period.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like 50, it average, 1 year you go down because of the Harvey or whatever, but the next year goes up 18.
You can see it.
Okay.
So back to this page, we can again adjust the amounts as we get more information and work with you going through this process as to when we might sell it. So here's one thing, this first run is selling the bonds with the PSF guarantee. And so the permanent school fund guarantee allows you to get a AAA rating on your issue if you apply for and get the PSF guarantee. In November, the PSF has hit its capacity for guarantees. And so we applied in November right after the election to try to see if we could get in before it ran out. We were denied at that time. They ran out that month. Now they've found some other things on reserve to get some more capacity. We will be submitting again this month and see if we can get in on that capacity that's there. They're working on a longer term solution to give us more capacity, and then we should be good to go. But so this run assumes we have the PSF guarantee. What I'll point down at the bottom, the estimated interest rate came in at about 4.11. We are a little conservative on it, but that's where that is. So if you now go to the next page, it's the same run we're doing. It's actually, this says 36, but it was 40 million and 39. This would be sold without the PSF. And that rate would be closer to a 4.18, 4.19.
I expected it to be more than that.
Yeah, it's really, it's not as huge as you might think it would be. One thing we can do if we don't get PSF and we see what your draw schedule, maybe we lower the amount we sell the first time.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is that, so even if the second sells, as long as we push it back some, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So that's all things that will work into the equation as we get more information going forward. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So this just graphically trying to visualize. I didn't know if it's easier sometimes to see it this way. So the green is what your outstanding debt is. And so debt service, principal and interest, it's kind of declining over time as the issues go in. We come in with the next two issues. We're filling it in, trying to get your total debt service more to a level annual basis, so it's not jumping around, and as your values go up, you'll see your INS rate, like it has in the past, come down. Okay? Go ahead. So here, you can read the little writing. We're ready to, I think, proceeding with going towards that first bond issuance. And we were recalling that we did do a reimbursement resolution back in the fall. So if you spend funds, you can go ahead and spend them, and we can get them reimbursed with bond proceeds if it's for a bond project. But we filed a permanent school fund application. We're meeting tonight. talk about moving forward. We would start working on the sale documents. We would come along here, we've kind of got it set up for selling down here in mid-June. We can speed this up. This is a comfortable timeline. If we needed to sell earlier, we could do that. The earliest we could probably sell though for PSF, if we turn in April, we should get word on the approval or disapproval by May 21st usually. We could set up a sale in late May if y'all are ready and things need to be moving. We can do that, but this is just a comfortable schedule.
And the 4.11 and 5 are just estimates of where you think it's gonna, where the interest rate will shake out.
Right. And hopefully the 5 is high. That's a conservative estimate. But if we do this in June, generally we can get your money in 3 to 4 works, have money into your hands in 3 to 4 weeks. So then you'd have it in mid-July if we sell in mid-June. I would think we probably want to shoot for this or maybe earlier if that timing fits otherwise, because we have another round of elections in May, and if those are successful, they'll be trying to hit the market in early July. That's about the earliest they can come to market. So we want to get in before they do.
The one thing I'm concerned about is those early packages that we talked about.
Right.
The dirt work's not going to be a big one, but that HVAC is going to be a pretty hefty tag.
And when do you think that'll?
They want to like go out in May, but that's a question. You're bidding it out, you're getting bids, getting it ordered. That don't mean we pay for it, right? But
yeah. So we can bump this up to where we're selling like in the last week or two of May and have money in mid-June.
I think we're fine. I want more on that early bid package. I want.
Yeah.
They should be able to provide you a complete S-curve where they think all costs are going.
Right, and that's what they're going, I just want to make sure there's not, I mean, I've never done an early package where, I mean, does it require, to get this, does it require 50% type thing, or is it?
It should require.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think so either.
You should be getting some of that back from them.
Next week.
Next week,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So we'll stay in communication and work on that, and we can adjust this time. This was just time to give you an idea how it would go forward from here. And then go ahead to the next. This shows what interest rates have done. So this is back in January of 2022, when rates were unbelievably low, and everything was kind of crazy. Rates have gone up, but we have seen a trend now since the end of last year that our tax exempt rates have been coming down. It's a volatile market, and
it's worth it going next.
But when we did refunding, even though rates were low, we paid like a premium to sell those to get their yield that the bondholders were wanting,
So the coupon, there's two rates when you sell the bonds. There's the coupon interest rate, which you saw in there, some of those were 3%, there was 2.85, there's 4%. And then the yield that they actually got was less than that. So like the yield on that 2019 issue, the actual interest rates that investors got were in the 1% and 2% range. They paid a premium on it to get the higher coupon interest rate, but they paid more for the bond than what they're going to get paid at the end.
okay. I just remember that in there.
Yes.
So these here, will they be closer to par, or how does these price out with the higher interest rate?
They're still looking at, what we're seeing is most of them now, when we go to market with an issue, we had an issue last week, looking at 5% coupon interest rates and selling at a premium in the 3s and 4s rather than now what was the 1% and 2% range. So they're still, the investors are still wanting the premium, wanting
Because
higher
of the grade
coupons.
they're getting, the higher stuff they're getting.
And because they're not sure where interest rates are going, and they feel like that gives them some protection. But it also, when you sell it at a premium, that's why that one issue where I said it really was 40 million, it said 36, that was because when they pay premium, it lowers the amount of principal you actually issue.
That goes against what you're actually financing out of the
Right,
bond.
and you're still gonna get your 40 million. It's just not gonna actually sell 40 million in debt, that's all.
So if we go back a couple of pages,
Okay?
bring back either with the PSF or without it. Go back one more. There, so right there, let's just look at that one. So the yellow is our new debt service after we sell it.
Yes.
In the middle column.
Yes.
The green column, is that what we currently, our debt service in the green next to it, 2 columns to the right?
Okay, so this will need, so this and the green is the projected INS fund balance. So you ended fiscal year 2022 with a little over 2.5 million in your INS fund balance. So this year, I meant to go through this to help on the defeasance. This year with the 20-cent tax rate, you generated that $500,000 more than was needed on what your debt service originally was scheduled for this year.
Okay.
We're gonna use that 500 to do that defeasance and pay that debt off early. And so that's what that is. And this just showed if from that point forward, we levy the INS tax rate that's needed for the debt service, so your INS fund balance stays the same. This column, the revenue from the tax rate is how much.
So the 20 cents times the taxable value is going to generate the 3.8?
Yes.
Okay.
And these are with a, was it 96 or 95? 97. 97% collection factor.
Okay.
Which Darlow said we're at.
You're at, and you're more when you get taking his delinquencies.
Right.
You generally end up closer to 100.
So the green, the 3,047,000 is already in fund balance that's sitting there from excess in the past.
We talked about it. How much did you say you are sitting at right now? Do you recall?
Cash,
Yeah.
about 3.1.
There you go.
Which is that number there, basically.
Yeah.
And that just stays there in case.
Well, we're gonna use 500,000.
Right.
To pay off, and then the 2.5 million, you have to have that fund balance because your fiscal year ends June 30th and you have a payment in August. So you've got to have some fund
So that's to
balance
make
to
the
carry
payment, so
over to
that's not
pay for
actually-
that August
okay.
payment.
Okay. Has to carry the float based on the way
Yes.
we get collect
Yes.
money.
Yes, because you're not gonna get your new tax money till December.
That makes sense. Okay.
You start it on, start the cycle again.
Okay. I'm clear now.
So a happy day.
This whole process is school funding, not easy, is it?
I think you're getting hurt.
A lot of moving parts.
Yes. But I think you're in good shape. What I was gonna say is, because the interest rates, like she mentioned, you're getting now, when you get your bond proceeds, you're actually gonna be able to earn, you're probably gonna be able to earn more interest than you're paying on the bonds. So we're going to have to watch the arbitrage situation. We'll work with you as far as that's concerned, but that's also good news because that means you're earning as much as you can and get some of those interest earnings to help fund.
If we over earn, what happens to that money? We just pay it
Yeah.
back towards bonds?
You have to, if you earn positive arbitrage under the tax law, you have to pay it back to the federal government.
To the federal government, huh?
Yes, they get it from
So you're
everywhere.
watching your tax rate, right?
Yeah.
I won't say what I was gonna say, but that's.
Thank you for doing good.
I'm the messenger, I'm the messenger, I'm not.
Yeah, but I mean, the deal is we can monitor tax rate. So one of the things that's, 2 months ago, we approved, we got notified that by the state, or the appraisal district, that there are a couple of areas that Columbia, Missouri did not raise enough tax money. The biggest one is businesses.
The
commercial side of it, electrical, gas, that kind of stuff. And so I want to say we were like at 87% of what the state
We're like
expected.
72 or 74.
So, yeah.
70.
So, I would assume there's something coming on that side, right, to make things right?
Yes,
So-
because you have to, because they're gonna penalize you on the formula.
Right, well, we're in year one, so we're in
You got the,
we're good,
right, but they're gonna have to get it straight.
They have to get that straight, but that's gonna mean a lot more taxable value
Coming
on
on.
that side.
I think it'll be better, it should end up better than what we shown.
So is there a way if we sell the bonds, you know what, you will tell us how much we can earn on those while we're, so to keep from the arbitrage situation?
Yes. We'll have all that figured out. And it's okay to earn more. I mean, in the worst case, you keep as much as you can, and if you have to pay some back, I mean, it is what it is.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking about, if rates are at the local institutions at 4.5 and we can only earn 375, we go say, hey, will you give us this and this amount of money? They're probably gonna jump all over it because they're not paying somebody else that higher rate.
Yeah.
So, sounds good to me. All right, good report.
All right, thanks.
Thank
I will
you.
get you that information soon.
Yes, awesome, very good. We'll be in touch.
All right, be safe.
Bye, be
Thanks so
careful.
much. Okay. Need a break.
Now we go into maintenance.
I don't think that's what that.
Mr. Williams.
All right.
Wake up, Justin.
All right.
Your turn.
I just melted my head back here with all this. Whatever. Anyway, so moving forward, maintenance, we're kind of gearing up to get ready to jump in the trenches in the mud and the blood and trying to take care of our summer projects. But I want to pick up where Mr. Galloway left off a while ago, referencing the tennis courts. So in your folder, you should have a couple of proposals.
You have two, look like this.
And what you'll see with those is those are related to this residential structure over here on South 17th that we just picked up. In pursuit of getting these tennis courts built, obviously that house is going to have to come down, and we're trying to get ahead of the curve on that and go ahead and get that building taken down. But in the process, we're going to have to do an asbestos abatement, as you'll see on the one, which was not involved. I mean, that's not in the Drumalia's cost review yet. And then from there, then we can tear the house down, which will be your second quote.
Did they do a survey already of the asbestos?
Pardon?
Yes.
Yes, I've done that, yes.
So we're looking at, basically, we're looking at exterior.
Correct. Yeah, just exterior, that transite siding. There's no interior ACMs. With that being said, if we're going to try to see what we can do to get these tennis courts going as quick as possible, I think we need to jump on this. With your blessings, I'll get it going.
So the question is, what to do. Technically, we're talking with Drumala, if we were to kind of leave the project to Drumala, so going back, that cost estimate that you have has tennis courts in it, right? Because it has to be there in case what we're talking about falls through, right? So if we spend the money early, there's gonna be a cost savings on the back end. When it comes to the demolition cost, Drumala kind of has that house built in with everything else demo-wise. So if you look at it, they have like a $480,000 demo package. That includes the house in it.
Yeah, somewhere,
right?
And so if we tear that down, then the money the funding that was allocated in there, we can just go back to a general contingency or unknown contingencies, whatever.
So the other piece of that is the longer that thing stays there, that's a security risk for us. Why we have it locked up, we monitor it, but the quicker that's gone, the better we feel. So that's kind of a discussion for you guys. How would you like for us to proceed? Because I think we've got the first thing would be the abatement, and we're talking about maybe a 2-week lead time. Is that what we said?
Within 2 weeks, take a couple of days.
Right. And then as soon as that's done, the demo would
pick up pretty
permit with the city, things like that. Take care of those.
Right. Pretty quickly thereafter.
They did, and it's kind of like. It's such an irrelevant part to them. They're not going to tell us to save money, but part of that contract is that 480 is grouped if they don't spend it. There's going to be line items as we go to the cost, right?
I just want to make sure we don't.
Yeah. So they don't get
You
right,
get five back.
Right. No. That's not going to happen because as we get closer, it's going to be line items, right? And so we'll know. So when we remove it, we would expect that cost either to go down or we leave the cost in the project and we move it to a contingency. Yeah.
But you got to be saving on the project because you're not going to be paying their overhead.
Correct.
Doing that.
Yeah,
You're paying the
correct.
architect or overhead on that.
Right.
Eliminating the middleman.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we have reached out to our design build guys about tennis courts. We haven't heard back yet on that.
Okay, that's going to be my next question.
Yeah. But to me, for Justin now, the quicker we get rid of the structure, the better off we feel about it. That's kind of what we wanted. Kind of what kind of direction you want us to head with that.
So my
Just
first
talking
question
about
on.
the house, right?
Just the house.
Just,
Correct.
can the building be moved, the building be
They'd be tearing the
used?
middle building down too, wouldn't you?
Well, it's gonna depend on the design. If we can keep it for storage and stuff like that,
Great
that would be
building.
fat. Yeah, it's 2,500 square foot building. And, you know, we can do maybe a little gutter work, little garage door work, and it's got electricity. It's actually plumbed.
The little lipstick and rouge, I think will be fine.
So,
Cool, okay.
yeah, so
Because we could really come over in our car, we had to with the tennis
Yes.
courts, right?
Yes, right. And so one of the things that we've asked is.
I was just laughing at Justin's comment.
Hearing him say jokes?
Lipstick and rouge.
So one of the things that we've asked is, you know, we've had 4 courts, but we've asked for bids on 4, 5, and 6 courts to see what that would look like. I will tell you that athletics is having a discussion. Our tennis coach we've had this discussion many years ago when Mr. Clement was here about having the fall tennis program, right? Fall tennis is a team deal, right? So if you don't have enough players, you lose points when you play, so it's really not worth it unless you have the full team. Well, our coach thinks he has a lot of young kids in the program who want to play fall tennis, and so he really would like to get fall tennis started, and so we give him the go-ahead to try to make that happen for this next year. And so that's where and one of the things he said, can you build an extra court? And so we're at least gonna see what that cost looks like.
On the 200,000 we have in the budget that we do for capital projects, I know we bought band uniforms, stuff like that. Have we allocated all of that money for this year? Okay,
I would think we're close, yeah.
I'm pretty close.
okay, I was just curious. Okay. So this would just be a general fund expense that would
Well,
possibly get reimbursed?
It could be out of next year's budget, identified out of next year's budget too, if we wanted to. If you're talking about that, because as we roll forward, you're gonna have a new 200 in the budget if you wanted to consider
Well,
that.
this is gonna happen before then.
Well, you might be talking July before we get to it, right? Before construction, the earliest we could get
Before
construction.
tearing this stuff down?
No, he's down. I thought you were talking about the cost of.
No, he's talking about just this demo
I'm
stuff.
talking about this $5,000.
No, that can be pretty quick.
Okay.
I think honestly, that be before
But
graduation.
that's also gonna
We
be
could,
reimbursable.
it'd be, if we want to be reimbursed, I just seen where it's coming out, so it'd be a fund balance transfer to come out to pay it right now. I'm not opposed to it, I just didn't want to see what we had in the other. Because I'd rather like those. As far as I'm concerned, I'll make a motion, we approve these 2 and get started as soon as
Well,
you can.
it's not actually a motion.
That's right, because it's on the.
It's on the report. We're just, and it's all under $50,000, so
What's good for y'all?
it's good for y'all.
Okay. Y'all know
Everybody
good
good
to
with
go.
that?
Yep.
Well, I'll get that executed and then the way it looks, so that'll be gone before graduation day.
Nice.
Perfect.
And with that being said, that's all I have for you guys.
How's our air conditioners working?
Freezing cold.
You haven't had any problems with them?
Yeah, that's
Everything good on?
great. There was a couple little minor hiccups, a factory defect, but that was quickly taken care of, as soon as the installation was going on. They're doing very well.
Good. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Special programs report?
All right, so we've got a couple of things for you tonight, things that you might not hear about all the time, but we've had 3 visits by a state agency this year that I just thought, after our board training and talking about information and the things we should be talking about at meetings that affect kids, I thought this would be something that in the past we haven't really talked about, but I want you to know about them. So our first one, Jennifer Kelly's going to start. She actually has 2. One centers around special education, and then the other kind of centers around bilingual.
So we have another additional accountability system for special populations, and that is our results-driven accountability system. So that looks at special education specifically, at bilingual ESL, and some other small populations like military-connected students. This information is gathered through our PEAMS state data reporting system, so it's always, we're looking at this year, all of the data from last year. So this year in particular, we have some issues with our bilingual ESL students and their performance on STAR, specifically at the high school level in our English program. So as part of this process, we developed a strategic support plan. We worked with the high school English teachers to develop some strategies that we're going to try to implement to hopefully help our students do better on STAR. But with that comes virtual meetings with TEA monthly. So I meet with them monthly, talk about the things, how we're doing on our strategies. They review our plan and kind of say, okay, you're doing good, or hey, you really need to think about some other things. So we've got that going on. Under that same results-driven accountability, they look at special education. Also, we have some issues with our special ed kids scoring well on STAR, but our primary focus under that area is significant disproportionality. So in our district, for a couple of years, we have had significantly disproportionate removal of African American special education students, which means that those SPED kids that are African American are removed from class for either ISS or OSS or DAEP at a higher rate than other special education kids. So this is a little bit of a numbers game because it all goes on percentages, not like straight number of students that we're talking about. So because the African American population is only about 8%, any one of those kids counts very highly for us. So because of that issue, because we've been in that situation for a couple of years now, TEA came and made an on-site visit. So they came and interviewed our administrators, they talked to our special education teachers, they talked to our general education teachers, they even went and sat in classrooms and observed our students in action. So we won't get our final report from them back until June, but they were very complimentary of our staff. They liked what they saw, they liked what they heard from people, so I felt pretty good about that. So there are a couple of things that we are sort of initiatives that we're taking on to try to continue to address this problem. One of the things that we did at the beginning of the year was the de-escalation training for all staff. You know, that was a big push. Not just our special ed people, but our general ed people, our child nutrition people, our bus drivers, everybody that's, you know, coming in contact with students. We wanted to have this de-escalation training. Coming up, we also have partnered with a consulting firm that is working with TEA to develop some guidance for other districts like us who are having these same kinds of problems and helping us to look at ways that we can make a difference so that our numbers just look a little better. So I'm excited to get started working with them. And lastly, the third initiative that we're starting is I will apply for a coaching project through Region 4 for district-wide positive behavior supports. And it's a funded project, it's a very structured, systematic implementation, hopefully to help us improve and be more comprehensive in the things that we're trying to do for students. So I'm excited to embark on that. So that's just a couple of things that we have going on. I do want to say one more thing is that about our bilingual kids, our Spanish-speaking kids, when we have 20 or more students in a single grade level that speak, whose home language is the same, so we have Spanish-speaking students, majority. Once we have 20 or more students in one grade level, we're required to offer bilingual education for those students. Now, we've actually been in that situation for about 5 years now. However, every year we file a waiver with TEA because we cannot find any bilingual teachers to hire. We have that on our recruiting list every year. We were really excited last year. We thought we had some people on the hook and they turned us down. But I'm really excited that we do have 2 teachers that are current employees of the district who are seeking their bilingual certification. So we're really hopeful that going into next year that we'll be able to offer the at least 2 bilingual classes.
And those will be at Wild Peach, right?
Yes. So those kind of start at the early levels and build up. So we'll start actually with kindergarten and first grade, and hopefully they'll come through. But I'm excited about that.
Good deal.
Do they grow out of that program as they get better English skills, or
yes,
does that have to go all the way to 12th grade with them?
No, usually we look at either an early exit program would be through the end of 2nd grade, and a late exit program would be through the end of 5th or 6th grade.
That's good.
All right, the third one involves our career and technology area, and I'll let Mr. Miller.
So back in September, we were notified by TEA that we were going to, that we qualified that's a word, for what they call an MOA audit. There's a methods of administration audit. Because we receive federal funds, even though it's a small amount of funds through our Perkins grant, we do receive some federal funds for our CTE program that we are subject to audit. Nothing we did wrong, it was just our year. I don't think we've had one since the early 2000s, before I was here. So we welcomed them. It took us an entire month to gather the documents that they requested. It was a very arduous process, but it was a very informative process in looking at our programs. And the purpose of the audit was to make sure that we were not discriminating against kids on the basis of race, color, origin, sex, and handicap in our vocational programs. And so what we had to do is we had to gather specific information that they were requesting over specific, 7 specific areas. Number 1 was administrative requirements. Were we posting the things that we're supposed to post? Were we getting information out on our website the way we're supposed to do it? As we as administrators, not only from the district level, but on the campus level, were we doing the things that we had to do? So we had to provide documentation of that. The second thing was how do we recruit kids for our CTE programs? As you're well aware, based on our allotment that we receive every year, that we receive quite a bit of money from the state based on our enrollment in our CTE programs. So we're doing an excellent job of recruiting kids into our programs. Admissions and then counseling. How do we counsel specific kids into our programs of study, into the career clusters, and the pathways that they eventually follow, and then what do they earn in the end of that process. The third thing they looked at was facility accessibility. What do our facilities, if we have wheelchair kids, are they accessible? Do we have handicap seating in every classroom? Do we have stickers and seating in the cafeteria? Do they have stickers? Are our handicap signs in the parking lots? Do they meet the specific requirement? Does our handicap parking spaces, do they have van access? Those types of things. Do our restrooms, do they meet handicap requirements? Those types of things. Services for special populations. As Ms. Kelly stated, what are we doing? Are we doing everything that we need to do as far as special education? Are we meeting the needs of the kids? Are we doing the things that we need to? Or are we including our kids in our special education programs? Are we certifying those kids? Give us proof that we're doing that. So we had to provide that documentation. Our work-based learning, or our cooperative programs, or quote co-op, our kids that are involved in the capstone courses and their programs and studies, whether they're working at the bank, whether they're working at the vet, whether they're working for us, whether they're working at a restaurant. We have kids that are in work-based learning programs. Have our teachers met the training requirements? Do we have the proper documentation? Do we have signatures from employers? Do we have signature from the parents for paid and non-paid? Because we do have some that do both. Performance-wise, are the kids in college? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Are they earning certifications? Are they completing their actual program of study? That was the 6th thing. And then the size, scope, and quantity. How many people are enrolled? Where are they enrolled? Do we have student organizations that meet the requirements for the students that are enrolled in those programs of studies? And what do they get out of it? So we had to provide documentation for that. Submitted it all, come back. At this time, TEA wasn't coming out to campuses. We did all this through Zoom. So they met with teachers, they first met with us, they met with principals, they met with counselors, they met with teachers. I believe that's it off the top of my head, through Zoom. Then, when all that was done, Ms. Bailey we got to walk around holding a phone for a campus tour. And you think, oh, not a big deal, but it was like, okay, stop. Lean down.
I can do that.
Show me the crack in the concrete. Can you zoom in? Put the measuring tape down. Measure it. We went through the entire campus doing that. And at the end of the day, it was all said and done. We received an email about 2 months ago saying that there were no findings. So we quote, passed our MOA audit, so hopefully it'll be another 20 years before we have another one. It literally took me almost 2 months to get all that stuff. When it was all said and done. So
I thought y'all would enjoy hearing about those three things, because that's just conversations we probably never had, right? And most people think we just go to school.
The one, I will tell you, the one comment that I remember specifically was they could not believe our agreements that we have with our industry partners and our college, the amount of programs of study we offer our kids and the opportunities they have because they don't usually see rural, what they consider us rural communities have the offerings that we have for our kids. So that was something that I directly remember as a statement from the people that were involved.
That's cool.
And that's one of the things, like, in the time I've been on the board and I've seen that, those programs grow, and like they're actually serving our students for their future. I mean, they're able to walk out of graduation prepared for the, work industry right then. And that's grown since I've been on the board. It's been fun to watch.
Great.
Okay.
Instructional report?
All right, so our instructional report, Ms. Fowler will do that. In your folder, you should have a paper clip, and this is basically your second data release, if you want to call it that, from our second round of release tests. And we normally, here's what happened the first time, here's what happened the second time, here's what we think, here's our access. But as you heard today, we've already started state testing today, right? Today was the kickoff, right? And so, each campus, each department, or each testing area may fluctuate a little bit. Keep in mind this year, online testing, right? We really don't want to test 1,000 kids online on the same day, right? Because if something goes wrong, and so as you'll see, our testing scenarios, it's not like when it was paper and pencil back in the day, and you did English this day, right? And everybody, it's different, and so Samantha has worked with our campuses to basically come up with a plan that keeps it within a servable scope within the day, and so anyway, we're off and rolling today. But anyway, Sam, you want to go over the scores with them right now? And campus principals here to ask questions if you have it.
So the first sheet that y'all have is the M-class dibbles that we do with our kinder first and second. For each campus, we have the boy and boy data. And for y'all, I have the second sheet. That's how they did last year. So, because you're asking, all the time about how did they do last year. So you have, top sheet is this year, the second sheet is last year's data. If you have any questions, the campus administrators can answer those. Then you have Columbia High School's data for this year and how they did on our second release. This is information I haven't received yet as far as their release number 2, which is a STAR redesign release test. So this was similar to STAR, the actual STAR that some took today.
But keep it in mind, so when you look, keep in mind this is a redesign. When you compare last year to this year, keep in mind it's not exact, right?
Right. And then the next part of Columbia High School is last year, how they performed. And so it keeps on repeating that pattern. West Brazos Junior High this year. So I'll just give you a few.
So remind me why release 2 has lower numbers from year to year. It was the same way last year. A lower number of total. Why is it doing that?
It's when you test, and it also falls either before spring break or after spring break. It also could be test stamina, and in this particular case, with us adding those 14 new item question types and testing after spring break, I feel that was a discrepancy in the data.
Technically, you tested before spring break, secondary did.
Did we?
We did not. Yes,
Which one put up?
you did.
We took one before spring break and one after. So
Yes.
because that's what happens. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I was wondering, because it looks consistent from year to year, so.
And I think it has a lot to do with the redesign questions and the constructed responses and having to write out their answers and students not taking the time to actually go in the depth that they needed to. And we're hoping that changed today and for the next month and however long it takes us to get through STAR.
So especially when you get into ELA writing be included this year, right? Is it different? Right. So if I'm not mistaken, the writing.
That's what I would think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, thank you,
Well,
yes.
and even in release 1 and release 2, you can see a very different trend in numbers because of the way we graded the constructed responses. The first time, they're teacher graded them, meaning we have some teachers that grade really hard and they push their kids to meet a certain standard. And then we have some that just, they give them the floor and they take the easy route. So maybe there was a little bit of discrepancy in teacher ratings. Second time around, the teacher graded and then the partner teacher graded and they took the average of the score. So we did see a very big difference in their writing scores, which is helping them grow. So hopefully today they use that and just gave it their best shot.
But there were different question types on the test, and that threw some of our kids for a curve. There's multiples, there's drop downs, there's fill in, the old fill in the blank kind of type. It's all changed.
So not this past weekend, but the weekend before, the board went through our Lone Star governance training and spent a lot on the Senate Bill 1566, student outcomes and this. And so I think it was a great conversation that, when we lay this information out where you can't draw direct correlations. There's always something that's different, right? But the deal is showing, the biggest piece of this is showing a process, that there's a conversation happening, that there is a process of trying to get better, trying to work with kids, and this is where it comes from, right? So the meat is what's behind it, what kids improved, right? What kid improved greatly? What kid did great last time and not good this time? Well, we gotta talk, right?
And maybe the instructor that did real well, what are they doing that's different than somebody else, where their scores were still good?
Like, for instance, I'm gonna point out, I'm brag on West Brazos Junior High 6th grade math. Really, they're at 86 or above, and for the approaches are higher. That's pretty phenomenal. Hopefully that will be 90 from when they get to the first weeks in May. That's always this, anyway.
Do we try to standardize so we do the same type thing every year, it's at the same time of year each year, so it's not
Yes.
we try to control our control environment the best we can and kind of look at that.
Yes, and this is also the first year that we actually had reading all in the beginning right now. So before, English 1 and 2 were done previous years at this time. Now it's all reading, and English 1 and 2 is done. And then they have a 2-week, 10-day window technically. And then science and history have a 10-day window. And then math has a 10-day window. So they changed the format of STAR, of when the windows are for testing as well. So that's a little different this year, so we're finding.
But as far as like our CBA 1, CBA 2, we try to do it at the same time, same format, same stuff. So it's kind of consistent.
Questions for me or the campus administrators?
Oh, it's next month, really for the next month, right?
May 12th is the last day for makeup.
So the deal is now, there's windows, right, like we talked about, there's windows, and so, what's really nice about the window is we had conversations, so let's just say 9th grade ELA went today, and 5 kids missed. But now that you have the window, right, it stays open, it used to be you had to schedule one makeup day, right? They had to be here that makeup day. Well, now, you can have makeup on Tuesday, and makeup on Wednesday, makeup on Thursday. It stays open, right? And so that hopefully is about getting all the kids tested, all the kids made up. Right, so that it's different. Now, the problem with the campus is that you schedule for testing, and now you got 5 kids that need to do makeup, but you're testing this other. I mean, it becomes a coordinated effort, a management effort to stay on top of it.
5th grade reading to test today as well.
Good deal. All right. Let's see.
employee contract report.
Given that we're in contract time, you have an orange folder. Kind of what we thought we'd do is kind of just brief you. I don't know if we've ever done this. We've talked about it, but we wanted you to physically see, right? And so we could kind of talk about given the fact that we have probationary, and then we have term, and then we have 2 years, we have dual contracts, and then now we also have what's called the non-Chapter 21 contract that we call NCT1. And we just want to kind of physically show those to you so that you can understand the process. So with that, Ms. Jeffrey, you want to take over?
Sure. So in your orange folder, you have a array of different contracts that will be going out over the next month to our employees. The first one is what we call a LORA, a letter of reasonable assurance. This one goes to our hourly employees. So it's a letter. This also goes to our substitutes as well. That is their contract. After that, you have the
If you don't mind.
Sure, yeah, of course.
So the reason for the LARA, right, is those hourly employees, we're going to bring them back next year. Well, several years ago, there was issues where, like a substitute teacher, right? So school's out in May, it don't start again, and then somebody files unemployment, right? And so the LARA says, if we give you a LARA, that means we're offering you employment when school starts again, right? And so you can't go down to unemployment if you file unemployment, right?
You don't have to pay unemployment for 3 months and then come back to work.
Right.
So next is our multi-year term contract. That's for our principals, directors, assistant superintendent. These are your 2-year contracts. So it's
Okay, hold on,
multi-year.
you got, they're different. Oh, this one has term on top.
Oh, okay, well, we can go to term. So there's 2 different kinds of term. There's the term contract and the dual assignment term contract. These are year-long contracts. The term contracts is for our teachers that normally have 3 years or more of teaching experience. The dual assignment contract means that they're also a coach, or some kind of UIL sponsor. So it could go for cheerleading or dance, any of our athletic coaches, our CTE, like our ag teachers and things like that, they're on the dual term contracts.
So that basically means they're in 2 categories on the spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yes.
They have a stipend of some type.
Yes, they do. Yes. Their name might be there like 3 or 4 times with it. What do y'all have next? Because I think mine might be different.
Multi-year term.
Okay, there we go. All right, so the multi-year term, like I said, stated before, it's for your certified administrator, like your principal, your directors, those that get the 2-year contracts. These get voted on in March, and this is what those people in those job categories receive. Okay.
Before you go, so
Yes,
the
sir.
dual assignment term contract, like you say, coach and stuff. So to me, it looks like the same. So is there something that goes with, is the addendum what says they're coaching or what the other is?
So in the first paragraph under term, it's really the same as the term. It just has this blurb in here that makes it different. Because they might have to start earlier or they might end later based on their job, like if they're coaching or things like that. They're not going to be a 10.5 month employee. They might have to come in July or stay late in June.
Okay. But how do you know from this what their extra thing is? Is it per addendum that goes with it?
So later on, when we're in closed session, I'll give you the contract recommendations that the principals have done, and that goes with their job.
Okay, so what's happening like in coaching world? So the athletic director, we're saying you get a dual contract. That just means you have the right to coach. You're going to get money for coaching, but you're subject to assignment. And so the athletic director, as we get into July, will turn those coaching assignments in. Okay. So yes, there is an addendum that comes that assigns them.
And the position indicates that there's more than just the.
Yes.
It says dual assignment.
Yes.
Correct. And then you have your probationary contracts. So there's 2 of those. There's the probationary and then your dual assignment probationary contracts. Probationary contracts are normally given to those staff members that are just starting out in teaching or have less than 3 years. They go onto a probationary contract. And then the dual is if they're probationary and again, if they're some type of coach. or ag teacher or anything along those lines. And then.
So I'm gonna ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, probationary doesn't really mean they've done anything wrong, that they need coaching.
No.
But it does indicate that it's limited and potentially has a quicker end.
Yes.
Correct.
So do we institute anything in the probationary period, like the 3 years, to help ensure success with people in new positions or?
Yes, and so that's, that's a requirement. Regardless of the type of contract, we always ask the questions, right? Have you, if you've noticed a deficiency, have you addressed it? Have you talked with them? Have you established a plan? Have you given them, have you provided training? Have you provided help? Have you had follow-up conferences? Have you had a conference to address of whether it's worked or not, right?
Okay.
Have you done all that? Yeah, those are requirements regardless of any other contracts, right?
And we also have the mentor program for like our new teachers that come in. They're assigned a mentor, teacher, and so forth to kind of help them as well.
What about administrative positions? Like, say you're a first-time principal or you're a first-time athletic.
So what happens is, so speaking of the teachers, a teacher that's never taught before comes in, it's generally probationary year 1,
Right.
year 2, year 3. Then the next year, you can go to probationary 4 if if the presentation to the board agrees, right? But there needs to be a P4. Or if you're a new employee to the district, you've taught in another district, you come here, then you always get a probationary contract. Same thing with, we still have that conversation sometimes with administrators too when they come in. So when it comes to the
Well, what I'm
probation.
asking is, do we have support to ensure their success? Like a mentor, like
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Do we do
I
that
don't-
with certain or?
I won't say we establish mentors, but. It's not formal. It's not formal, right? It's more of an informal process if that. Yeah, but you won't find districts our size that have built-in support systems. It's just not, it just doesn't happen, right? We don't, we try to do the best we can in meetings, right? And so when we have like on Thursday, we'll have our monthly administrators meetings. We have open and honest conversations. We talk processes, right? The things we're talking about, I'll be talking about bonds, right? So you're an administrator, you want to grow, you have to be in those meetings and pay attention to help grow. So we don't really have a class, but we have opportunities to learn.
From the campus level though, for y'all's new teachers, y'all feel like y'all have something in place to help those people nurture them and grow them and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, do you try to pair them with a more experienced teacher or kind of stuff like that, I would guess?
We will have instructional coaches as well who support their content area. So they have multiple avenues of support.
I think it'd be easier to do that on a teacher level than administrator level, because sometimes we have a first-year principal with a first-year assistant, it's kind of, I mean.
We support each other as
I
principals.
was like, I have a mentor. She maybe doesn't know that's what I call her.
We stick together as administrators.
I believe that's correct. As you get up the chain, administrative level, that kind of support is less and less, right? But that comes with responsibility and pay grade and those kind of things. That's just kind of the way our system here at CBISD is built.
And last, we have our non-certified contract. So we have the non-certified contract and the dual non-certified contract. These are for our DOI teachers. So these are teachers that we have DOI based on relationship with kids or their degree that they're coming in on, or if they're ACP and they're working really hard but they're not there yet. Those are the teachers that would get the non-certified, and then if they coach, ag teachers, etc., then they would be on a dual non-cert. Lastly, we have a contract called the probationary non-certified contract. These are for our DOI staff members that need a little extra help, whether it's classroom management or they are on the principal's radar to kind of help grow them a little bit more. This was put into place just to kind of help them.
It's like a placeholder, meaning, we ask all the time, so as a question, how do we know the teacher was getting help? Well, if you get this contract, that lets you know that, hey, administratively, there was a discussion about deficiencies. And rather than sending someone down the road, it was, hey, we're going to put you on this contract, means that there's kind of a growth plan type status that comes with it.
But I would like us to give them help before they get
I
this
agree
warning.
I agree with you.
This is serious to me.
I agree with
And
you,
I would be
yes.
looking for another job if it were me.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm just saying, if we can get them, that support before they get there.
But let me help explain this one to you. So when you get into so you got a teacher that's state certified, right? 4 through 8 math. They come in, they get a job, probationary year 1, probationary year, probationary 3. If you get, say, somebody that's been a DOI that comes in, the NCT one or the non-chapter 21 contract is technically the same as a probationary. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't get a P1, P2, a P3.
Right.
They've been on NCT one, and then it's really to try to align it with them so that we can take them through that process too. So it's not really a run you off thing.
Right.
We really haven't had, so when a teacher, P1, P2, P3, we get to P4, that's that discussion. We didn't really have anything on the NCT one track that tracked the same. And so this hopefully helps us and prevents us from getting, because right now it's either NCT one or 5. Right, and so that's what we wanted to kind of show you that's an attempt to do exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, good. I want to hear.
We agree with you 100%, and I think all the
I just think when we find good people, sometimes people just struggle and they can get that little extra.
And it's when we have conversation, everybody has a right place, right time. Just because you're not good at one here, you're good there. Campus-wise, there's difference in campuses,
Sure.
The team you work with, and so all of those things should be tried. Agree with you.
But technically, a non-certified contract and probationary, they're the same. It's just more of a title, so it's more formal that they understand they're being looked at closer.
So at the end of the day, a probationary contract. So if you get a probationary contract, and so let's just say somebody's on a probationary contract that are not asked back for the next year. Technically, after the board votes on that process is done. If you're probationary. If you're on an NCT1 contract, non-chapter 21, then if we don't offer them a contract, they have a right to appeal for a board hearing, right? And depending upon the board hearing, that's done. If they're on a term contract, now there's all kinds of deadlines and timelines to meet. There's 2 different actions that have to be taken. Then they have the right to appeal for the board, and then if that's not good with them, they have a right to take that further to TVA, to the Commissioner of Education. So that's kind of the difference in all of those contracts, exactly right.
Thank you, that was very good.
Next is safety and security.
All right, so I'm going to take a little bit longer than I normally do, but because I do need to do the Columbia High School safety audit report. Required to do that every 3 years. We're required to do a safety audit of all of our instructional campuses every 3 years, in addition to the new summer requirements. So I will just go over this information real quickly with you. I'll summarize what we found. Actually, we do follow Texas School Safety Center's template, and it's quite a lot of documents. So I have a nice little summary here that I'd like to go over with you. And if you have any questions, just let me know. So safety review of the high school was conducted on April 12th. We had our conference. In attendance was the principal, the assistant principals, the chief of police, the director of maintenance, and myself. We also interviewed campus nurses, counselors, receptionists, and office staff, and had them fill out questionnaires as well. Additionally, the audit team reviewed campus documents as well as staff, student, and parent surveys. For your information, from the student surveys, we had 296 students, which is roughly 35% of the student population complete that safety survey. 52 staff members, which is about 70%, and we had a whopping 8 parent surveys. Columbia High School. From the interview process, what is the most pressing safety need at your campus? And this is from the actual staff and people that we talk to. ongoing need to ensure that the campus is secured. The fencing is good, however, it doesn't currently meet the new, quote, expectations that the state is required, meaning 6 foot with anti-scaling devices on top, or 8 foot. Additionally, there's 2 doors, the front door and the door in the C wing, as well as the safety vestibule that need the shatter-resistant glass on that. They have implemented random gate checks, which we have been interviewed. We did have TEA come in, and we did pass our audit for that. And we do have the security vestibule in the front door, as well as fencing all the way around the campus, and police officers in our 2 weak spots, which are the parking lots, to monitor entry on a daily basis. Second thing was cameras. While we do have cameras, the cameras do basically cover ins and outs. There are parts of hallways that are not covered, and there are hiding spots, not hiding spots, but blind spots where things cannot be seen. Additionally, they feel like more exterior campuses are needed, particularly in the student pickup line, the bus lane, and having all the parking lots covered as well, because there are blind spots there. One thing that I can relate to, I know Mr. Galloway can relate to, that they brought up was a uniform key system. Columbia High School has a bunch of different master keys for different buildings, and it is a nightmare. Hopefully, with the new school being built, that will be corrected. So, and
it will be corrected.
And I will leave that. I will leave it at that. Radios, they do have two-way radios on campus, and they use them on a daily basis. However, they're concerned that they're unable to communicate across the district. This is something that I brought to you earlier in the year regarding, particularly when we're transporting kids, and they're unable to contact buses in the event of an emergency, or the buses are unable to contact campus police and/or administrators in the event they have an emergency. We do have some blind spots in the district with transportation: Hinkle Ferry, Danziger, and Cow Creek.
Yeah.
So we have a very big district, and our repeaters do need to be replaced, and we do need radios, and they're very expensive. Vaping, CHS, and it's not just CHS, but it's across schools everywhere. Continues to see the issues with student vaping, and they feel like additional vape detectors would be beneficial to them, even though it would make them very busy. And the last thing that they'd like to see is a campus character program, not just at their campus, but something district-wide that's vertically aligned, starting at the bottom and working its way up. They do have the 2 words going, but they think that something that starts in elementary school and works to the top would be something that's beneficial. School safety activities that they think they do best is actively monitor students, campus police monitoring parking lots and gates, safety drill compliance, and providing students' needs with counselors, CIS, support staff, and mental health. Topics that are most important to them for training and staff development was continued de-escalation training. What is the role in staff in observing and reporting and following up on safety concerns? Continued local PD active shooter trainings. That was something that the staff responded to on their survey, that it was good to see them. They actually were on campus one day when Chief brought the police in and they were doing active shooter drills. They actually got to see it with their eyes, what it would look like. And continued training in standard response protocol, and each individual teacher's role in the emergency planning process. The biggest barriers for them, of course, is time, money, just about to get things they need. Something they really talked about was changing or confusing expectations that we get, and y'all know, from our state legislators regarding campus, what we're supposed to do, and the behaviors that we're seeing from kids and what we can actually do to them. Remember several years ago, they kind of handcuffed schools into things they can do from a legal perspective. And so some of those things.
I see citations.
Right. And then lack of, at the high school, one thing that you see that you don't see it a lot particularly at the elementary schools, is lack of parental involvement. Some other things just to go over. There was a lot of things that we look at. There was a checklist of things that we had to check that were available on campus, and they were there: emergency operation plan, evacuation plan, documentation of drills completed, floor plan. We recently we presented it to y'all in the fall, an updated floor plan and a site plan and a grid pattern, and it was distributed to first responders. We do need to update our aerial photograph because the one we have is when I was principal, and we've made some additions since then. So if the technology still has the drones, we need to update that. Staff communication protocol, code of conduct, ID policies, visitor policies, campus improvement plan, and referral data. Those are things that we were asked if they had and seen, and they were all there. Talked about building access. CHS encompasses roughly 5 acres. It has several entries that have been limited through security fencing. All visitors are expected to enter campus through the main office, and students can access buildings through the parking lot that are supervised. The secure door policy, the teachers are aware of the secure door policy at Columbia High School. Teachers are always asked to keep their instruction doors locked or supervised at all times. Our alarm system is evaluated every summer, as well as our fire extinguishers. We do have key control processes, and our busing and parking lots do meet requirements. There is processes for deliveries and checking deliveries and suspicious packages. And then our science laboratories meets requirements. They all have fume hoods that work, eye wash stations and emergency showers, safety equipment and fire extinguishers. However, going through the labs in the storage area, particularly, we have chemicals in there that have been there for a long time that are not used. It's very organized, very neat. However, some of those we need to look at disposing some of them in a proper manner, and you can't just pour them down the sink. So that was one thing. We do have procedures in place for facility use rental, after school use, and the requirements that are there. We do have cameras in place. There's cameras in place. We have computer access. We have mobile access to the computers, and the principals are trained. We do have 3 officers that are on CHS on a daily basis, including the chief of police. Some comments that we received from the surveys that were completed from teachers and staff. Some safety and training requests were continued CPI updates. This I thought was very interesting. They would like some safety updates.
Tell what CPI is, Jennifer.
CPI is the Crisis Prevention Institute. It's our de-escalation program that we train all staff on, including how to safely restrain students when they're being a danger to
It goes from verbal to physical, right?
Yes.
One thing we see a lot of is kids escalating quickly, particularly after COVID.
But the de-escalation is a protective measure for you and the kid, right?
Yes.
It's not how to take somebody down, it's how to safely
It's how to
prevent injuries.
de-escalate.
Right.
Training or some information regarding highway and bond construction and how it affects student safety. Continued SRP training, and then one thing I really liked, someone thinking outside the box. It's something that doesn't get done, probably if at all. Haven't got to the other campuses yet, so I can't speak for them, but we kind of get ourselves stuck in a box when we do drills. We do a fire drill, we do a lockdown drill, we do a shelter in place, but we never do it during passing periods, and we never do it during lunch. So so that was one thing that someone put out there. Hey, you might want to start thinking about doing those. So that was something we talked about with the principals in depth. And so you might see something like that here in the near future. Staff training that was provided regarding safety this year was CPI, CPR, Stop the Bleed, AED use, Standard Response Protocol, which is how we respond to certain situations, suicide prevention, bullying, cyberbullying, reporting child abuse, and all required that state required trainings. Parent comments need to be more involved in bullying and preventing bullying, which is kind of strange for the high school because I haven't received one bullying complaint from the high school. Not that the campus hasn't received them, but we do have an anonymous bullying link on our website, and they always come to me, and then I distribute them to the campus. And I have not got any from the high school this year. Not to say that they haven't been reporting it on the campus. Parent comment, need to supervise bathrooms. send more students to alternative school that don't follow the rules. Student comments. Would like to see police officers in the hallways. Staff needs to step in the bathrooms during passive periods due to students vaping. More bathrooms, as there seems to always be a problem with the sewer pipes. Teachers need to be trained on listening to student problems instead of sending them to the counselor all the time. So that was a comment. Cleaning classrooms, mental health resources for students, which we have quite a few. I think we need to do a better job of getting the information. And that was something here in our last counselors meeting that we had. We talked about that specific. And more drug and weapons searches. Commendations for the school, diligence in completing drills and exterior door checks in a timely manner. Update of campus map and site map, they were very involved in that. Positive relations between CHS and West Columbia PD Police Department, CBISD and West Columbia PD Police Departments. Cleanliness of campus grounds and classrooms. Our exterior grounds, Justin and his staff do an excellent job. When you look at our campus grounds from the highway, they are always in great shape. And trash is cleaned up, mowed, weed eated. I mean, they're incredible. Witnessed some things that I witnessed on our walkabouts that we went on were positive relations between students, teachers, and administrators. It was nice to see people talking, getting along, and it wasn't just because I was there, because, you know, sometimes I can be incognito and see things that they don't know I'm there. I get in and out of there in a hurry.
Stealth mode?
And visibility of campus police. They like the fact that when they park in the mornings in the parking lot, that they always see a cop car there. Some recommendations from our meetings: updated key inventory and sign-out sheets for issued keys. Need an updated campus aerial photo. The campus does need an exterior Knox box for keys storage for emergency personnel. This campus does not have one. And it's required by the new safety requirements. So they don't have an exterior Knox box for emergency, even though we've given keys to the local police departments. So the reason why it was put on there is because it's one of the new safety requirements. Upgrade of, again, the same with the next one, upgrade of campus security fencing and shatter-resistant film for the doors in the security vestibule. Numbering of exterior doors, that's also a requirement that we need to do. The high school hasn't been done simply because the majority of their doors are behind gates. There's very few exterior doors, and most of them are going to be torn down. Annual training for front office, and one thing that we did discover is asking the office staff, what do you do when you receive a threatening phone call? Somebody's got a weapon, there's a bomb, call in with a bomb threat. There are particular procedures and guidelines in our emergency operation manual. They just don't know. So we have to fix that. It's something we have to fix. And that's easy. Disposal of old chemicals, as I told you, and removal. Teachers like to decorate. However, fire code says you're not supposed to have between 18 to 24 inches of ceiling. So that's and I'm sure I'm going to see that at every other school I go to. So. That is a synopsis of the security report, or the safety audit report for Columbia High School. Does anybody have any questions? A couple other things. We do have currently we have a safety and security committee meeting scheduled for next week. However, I have received some emails from a few people that may not be able to attend, so we might be moving that to May. I will send that email out this week if we confirm it and put it in place. Chief, would you like to go over your information?
Sure. I have a couple things here. Last month, Officer Salinas did 25 house contacts. There's no Crime Stoppers. No Crime Stopper tips were paid out. We had three reports and one arrest. And we had back to the shield grant. Back in October, at the beginning stages of following the grant, when I sent it off, it came back from the governor's office. There's a couple of corrections. One of them was the resolution. So when I brought to you on October from resolution, and on one of the fourth item, I had my name on it. It should have been Mr. Miller's name.
So it's just a typo.
It's just a mechanical computer error. What operator error? Yeah, it was an operator error. But anyway, so I called the governor's office, talked to with Julie about why the funds haven't been released. And they told me this, because it's contradicting what the original grant was filed. It has Mr. Miller, and on the resolution it has me.
So
both of them have to.
You have it fixed?
Sir?
You have it fixed?
Yes, sir, have it fixed.
You need a signature?
For, your Champagne signature. Yeah.
Why don't you bring it up?
We can do it.
I'll upload it tomorrow, and I'll call them back and let them know it's been uploaded. Hopefully we get our money.
Do y'all want me to proofread it for you? I will find the error in here.
Just there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we'll fill out.
Yeah, here's the other one here. Let's see.
You fill out the rest. Okay. Thanks, sir.
And that is
You
all.
haven't heard, don't ever get a shot. No.
So that grant's gonna take care of what you need, right?
Yes, ma'am. We've already got the shields.
And we paid for it, we just need the reimbursement.
Yeah, reimburse ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, because they sent me something, so I got with her, what Julie said the funds hadn't been transferred or released, so I called in, figure out
This is
why.
payroll deduction.
Yeah. So that 20,000 sticks out real quick.
Question for you, Chief. So in Mr. Miller's report, he was talking about the questionnaires and some, if I understood him right, some of the staff or participants were concerned about drug searches. We should have more drug dogs, more searches for drugs and weapons. The current facility, currently animals that we use.
Yes, sir.
Do they both do drugs and weapons?
Strictly drugs.
Strictly drugs?
Yes, sir.
When we went and had InterQuest do it, did their dogs do drugs and weapons, or do you know?
I refer that to you. I never worked with them, so I really don't know what
The contract we signed, did they?
Yes.
The contract
I dealt with
indicated.
InterQuest and the contract specifically, it states, and they did, because I've seen them specifically hit on ammunition. Shotgun shells, because we have our duck hunters.
So it's free, but we're not getting the same service.
No, InterQuest was not.
No.
I mean, what we're getting now, the dog is only doing drugs.
Correct.
When we paid, we were doing
Correct.
weapons and dogs.
And clearly, weapons are the greater threat here.
Yeah.
But we're not, we shouldn't be saying that out loud, y'all.
Well, Chief has contacted, it's just a matter of, I think it's hard to get them down here. I think you said Pearland would send them, it's just.
Another agency I talked to during the summer, theirs will.
You know, we had a set, with InterQuest, there was a set number, they came 10 times a year.
Right.
Basically, it was once a month. But they only came to the high school campus. They didn't come to the junior.
No, that wasn't.
No, the last year they did.
I understand, but the contract.
Never said West Brazos.
The contract was 10 visits to the district, right? And so we've always put it on the campus principals to, hey, we need them to go down there at least once or twice, right? And so we kind of deferred that. And so, but I think what you've seen as a change in leadership, right? And new people come in, they don't know the history, they see it different, and so they just do a certain thing, right? And I think that, so what it used to be and then kind of what it turned into, I think there was some miscommunication of what the expectation was and how that goes and looking and, so, yeah, it's different. The other piece about that is that when it comes to that kind of search, the school district, we really need it to be unannounced, right? It's not, we don't want a piece of paper or somebody listening to a principal say, hey, I need you to come on Wednesday, right? Because you have teachers that have kids. You never want to be accused that it was not a random thing, right? So that's the key to one of those, that.
In the new safety and security guidelines coming out from the state, is there anything in there that requires either drugs or weapons searches by schools?
Not yet.
No.
Highly recommended.
So the current group that we're using, or groups, or whoever we call, they don't come a set number of time, they just come when we act?
They come when Chief gets a hold of them and schedules it.
And so how easy is that? Well, how often have they been coming? How often can we expect them to come? We knew there were 10.
Ever since January, we've been doing it, we've done the high school. Twice, twice, and junior high.
Junior high once, twice.
Yeah, we've done junior high once. And it's based off, the agency, the officer that's available.
So we wouldn't need them during the summertime. So if you did 10 times with InterQuest, you were doing more than one time a month per se.
I don't know where it came up.
Yeah.
It ends up being one more, because you're through off 3 months.
Yeah. So
You get 10 visits for 9 months.
and we've done less than one every 2 months. So
Now, at the same time, let's be honest, that, I mean, the dogs that have come this year haven't hit on anything, right? Meaning there hasn't, I mean, they've hit, but we haven't.
There's been alerts.
There's been alerts,
No
right?
findings.
But no findings.
Correct.
And so
Yeah.
it has been a long time, even with InterQuest, it's been a long time since we found anything,
Right.
right? And so I think the key proponent is if something was there, you want to find it, right? But number two, it's, I think that the process of just happening has helped become a deterrent, right?
Right.
At least the vehicle piece of it, right?
So we hoped.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
yeah, it's just
Right.
not being able to,
So,
the weapons.
and there's no doubt,
gunpowders.
over the last 4 to 5
Sure.
years, anything big that's happened has been confidential informant.
Right.
Somebody has called and said, hey, a parent has called and said, hey, a kid has come to the office and said, hey, which that in itself speaks volumes, I think, too.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
So since we came back to school, we're using 4 different times. A lot of it's based on, of course, we never do a star. I always talk to the principal, hey, what y'all have going on this time? Try to get an idea what's going on, so I'm not gonna bring them.
So what would happen before with InterQuest is we would give them blackout dates, right? So Mr. Miller sent a calendar with blackout dates. And they showed up when they showed up. Right? We didn't know they were coming, it just happened. And so now Doug has to, and it's a little different scenario, right? Because it's a volunteer basis, right? So it's a little different process.
So the principals didn't even know when they were
No.
coming. But now we know when they're coming.
Well, Doug's not supposed to tell them.
No, I don't
Okay,
know.
okay.
Yeah, Doug's not supposed to tell them.
We still don't.
Blackout.
We still don't know when they come.
Now, I've called him, every time I've called him, Mr. Kenny in the morning, we meet up, and I'll call him and say, hey, I need an administrator to meet me at the school, be there in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't tell them what they're here for. And they walk out and they see me and whatever agency I have with me, and their handler.
Do y'all have, like Mr. Galloway has the Southern Missouri County Superintendent's meeting, do y'all have any type of Southern Missouri County ISD chief meetings or anything like that? Have y'all ever discussed it amongst the others as far as what they do as far as drug dogs or whatever? Is that conversation, or could you bring that conversation up and see what some of our surrounding schools do and who they use and thoughts on, from other chiefs, what they think?
Well, the first dog we used was from another school district. It has their own preparatory dog food program. We use that one. I know the other districts use the same thing, use local dogs.
So most of them all use the same type of situation?
I've used the county, maybe Sweeney, West Columbia, other areas. But again, they're drug dogs.
Right. I guess my curiosity from the board, would we want him to maybe this summer look at InterQuest again and see if the cost has changed or what it is, and see if we make a decision whether we want a dog that does drugs and guns again, or we'll be satisfied with what we're getting right now.
Or maybe if we don't have to have a full 10, I mean,
I mean,
maybe we could do 5 with them and 5 through the other, so that way we do get some gun coverage, and you could mix it up. Maybe, why don't you think about it and come back, maybe in June or something, and give us an idea of what your thoughts are.
I'll give Mr. Gallo, Mr. Miller, or whatever the board wants to do.
So no one else has the ability to, with the system we're using right now, do any of those dogs also hit on weapons?
Carolyn has a dog, and one of our chief meeting, he offers their dog they're on patrol, so we have to schedule out time when they come.
It would be good if every time they came, they looked for both, I think.
If you just do a little investigation.
The big thing that's been around here is the fentanyl that's concerning more than the weapons. Local school district basically got some fentanyl, a couple of kids, about a month or 2 ago.
Seems like there's been more shootings in the last month throughout the United States than in the last, period of time. It seems like shootings are getting a lot more common on a more regular basis.
I think what they're asking for is a recommendation, Chief. That's where we go.
Yeah, just look and see what you think. Put some questions out.
Interquest did hit, they did hit on
Yeah.
it. Did.
I hope we have a dog that never hits again.
Yep.
That's the goal. And it's a deterrent, what we're looking at, so. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next, annual report on training hours for individual board members. So if I'm reading this right, we're all experienced board members. So basically, we have 6 hours in tier 1 and 3 hours in tier 2 is the minimum that we need, right?
Right. Yeah, I think so experienced board member, you're looking at 10 hours being the requirement.
Is that it? Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
10 hours, okay, that's what I was trying to go with what that was, so. 10 hours is the minimum requirement. I'll just go by names. Mr. Broussard is 13.25 hours. Mr. Sisson is 24 hours. Ms. Danford is 26 hours. Champagne is 31.75. Matt is 26 hours. Linda is 29.75. And Jackie Gocher is 26.75.
Linda, what happened there?
So from that's when you went out with your son.
Reports were inaccurate. The reporter that was supposed to be here for Jonathan failed me.
Like them drug dogs ate your reports.
It was a quarter of an hour.
All right. Next is our action item consent agenda, which is to approve budget amendments and donations, consider workers' compensation renewal, approve agreement between CBISD and Sweeney Hospital for the operation of the general and technical aspects of clinical rotation for our students for the next coming year, approve partnership agreement between CIS, Communities and Schools of Missouri County and Columbus, Missouri ISD for 23-24. Consider the approval of student catastrophic coverage for 23-24. Would anybody like any of those pulled? If not, I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Second by Ray, all's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That
I
carries.
just have one thing. I did not attach the workers' comp.
I was looking for that.
But it's not, it's the same as last year, right?
No, it's going up, and I do.
Or explain to them. Go ahead.
Okay, so we use CAS to process all of our workers' comp, and we pay them a yearly fee. Last year, we just signed up for a year, but they have it now where you can sign up for 3 years and 5 years to lock your rate in. If we sign up for 5 years to use them, our rate goes up 4%. If we do a 3-year, it goes up almost 10%. I don't see that we're gonna change. They've done a good job for us. I would like to do the 5 year. That would just save us and it would lock us in so that we don't go up, because it would be 10% if we just signed up for another year over last year's rate. I would like to do the 5%, the 5 year.
Then we'll amend the motion that we approve the consent agenda. Well, let's just do the consent agenda from 1 through 4. We'll pull number 5, which is that's wrong one. Number 1, 3, 4, and 5 was the consent agenda. Number 2 we'll pull. And based off of Julie's recommendation, we'll go with the renewal for a 5-year period. And I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Linda. All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. Thank you for bringing that up.
Shame on us.
No, shame on me. I should have got it.
Linda, you're gonna lose an hour now.
Is that training I missed?
Anything else for open session? All right, we're going to adjourn to the closed session pursuant to the Texas Governmental Code, the Open Meeting Act, Section 551.074, to consider the employment of professional personnel, discuss the resignation retirement of professional personnel, discuss the performance of personnel and to consider teachers, directors, supervisors, administrative contracts. We'll reopen in open meeting and consider action considered in closed session. Thank you very much.
I'm traumatized, okay? Okay, with who? Like, I'm not good at that. You want to know how?